Okay. So
I love you, brother. I love you.
Mitchell,
This is
go ahead.
meant from love. I don't want to talk down to you. I don't want to be like, I just want to talk about the actual part where physics
okay.
stop being physics and they become metaphysics.
Okay, we can have. Hey,
That's the whole point.
Gilly, we can have the good conversation. Okay,
I know. I know. I love you, brother. You know that.
So look. So first off, the third law of motion, okay, has nothing to do with gravity per se. It's for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction.
You're appealing to Newton now.
I'm appealing to
mass
Newton.
tracks, man. Okay, we're there. Okay.
No. So just so you know, Gilly, just so you know, mass attracts mass is the law of universal gravitation. That's not what I'm appealing to here. Okay, I'm not talking about the universal law of gravitation. I'm talking about.
Book. It's from the same book. Okay.
I'm talking about the third law of classical mechanics. All right. Just so you know, you can distract it to mass attracts mass, but that's not the good conversation, right? If we're going to have the good conversation, we're going to, have to talk about, actually what the question here is. So the third law.
Have you gotten to the conclusion yet?
No, because
I really believe it doesn't take that long.
Gilly tried to
rhetoric,
Gilly went to mass attracts mass, which is a different conversation, Gregory. So I had to bring it back. So
didn't answer my question.
If something pushes off of something else, when there's a push between things, right? When there's an explosion that pushes in all directions, like the powder in a bullet, it will push the bullet in one direction, and it will, push as the bullet goes in one direction, the law of motion tells us that the thing that is expelling the mass will move in the opposite direction. Okay, that's how the third law of motion works. So do we want to?
Now?
It's basically karma.
No. Did you reach the conclusion now?
I'm checking to see if
basically stolen karma. Like if you treat someone badly, they will treat you badly. You will. If you show somebody force, they will show you equal amount of force back. So he stole this idea of karma and tried to apply it to some kind of cosmic physics. Sure. Okay. Carry on.
Okay. So what do you mean by cosmic physics?
Well, the thing that you're trying to talk about, right? You're trying to get rid of the fucking rig.
I'm not trying to get rid of a rig. I'm telling you that do we agree?
You have to get rid of the rig in order to prove your point. Do you understand what I mean, bro?
No, I don't.
The real question would be, is the mass of gas an accurate equivalency to mass of bullets?
Is the mass of gun equivalent to the mass of bullet?
No, is the mass of gas a valid equivalency to mass of bullet?
You mean in a rocket? Okay, I got you.
Yes.
The answer is yes, it is, because it's not just the mass; it's also the velocity. The velocity of the gas being expelled is much higher than that of the bullet. So yeah.
Define mass, just so that is not equivocated.
Matter.
So wait. Wait a minute.
So
wait, hang on.
You can describe
the
it
quantity
as
of matter
inertia.
that subsists the rocket is equivalent to what?
Say that again.
The quantity of mass, the matter that subsists the rocket is equivalent to what?
So the force that is created, I don't know what you mean by the mass is equivalent, but the force that's created
that's why I just had you define the word mass.
Okay, so I'm using matter. You can use inertia or an element.
No. I have to use what you're using
inertia,
so that we don't equivocate. That's why I said that.
Right? That's fine.
So
that's
the
fine.
quantity of matter, right? Mass defined as matter, is equivalent to what?
The quantity of matter and its velocity it has to be is proportional. It's leaving the rocket is what is proportional to the force that the rocket experiences as thrust.
Hang on.
It's
Into the break. What was your question?
Momentum of it is
Into
the
the break. What
same
was
as
your
the
question?
momentum imparted on the rocket
Yeah.
in the
Is
opposite
the
direction.
mass of gas a valid equivalency with mass of bullet?
Right. That's a valid question, and the answer is it's generally I don't think it's going to be. So first off, the mass of the bullet is accelerated by the charge of the powder, right? The explosion in the rocket's combustion chamber is much greater than is going on in the shell, right? When the gun is fired. However, the mass of the bullet going in one direction is going much slower than the gas that's being expelled out of the rocket exhaust. So the answer is yes.
Okay.
They are. Wait. So wait. Into the break. Ask a real question. I'm going to give them the real answer. Yes, it is equivalent if you factor in the velocity with which the gas is moving. It's not just the mass.
Okay. So Omni, in the movie Gravity, you remember when George Clooney went into space in this cosmic vacuum?
I did not see Gravity, but okay.
You didn't see it. Okay.
No.
So there's a point. Like Sandra Bullock is holding on to George Clooney, and he's almost, and then he flies off. So hypothetically, he would have to just fart, creating gas, propelling
Really?
himself back to Sandra Bullock, right?
Okay. I guess.
You have to see this movie, because it's called Gravity, and it's like the belief system and the one world religion that everybody's following. So
The day you
if
saw
you
Gravity
go
was the
to that,
most
this is
important day of your life.
a
For
Buddhist
me, it was Tuesday.
watching a documentary about
Really?
Buddha, or somebody watching Jesus Christ in like a documentary, right? So like you should watch that movie, get back to me, and it's exactly the same experiment, except
It
for
was
the
Tuesday.
gun. Except for the
Omni,
gun. It's just
let me.
George Clooney farting in space, getting himself out from getting floated into cosmic space forever and dying as an astronaut when the oxygen depletes. It's an amazing thing. You're gonna get an erection or something, and your balls are gonna grow. Your spheres are gonna grow.
Are you the guy who wanted to have the good conversation,
Come on, I'm
Billy?
just making a joke.
Yeah,
brother.
30 minutes into this and no conclusions have been drawn yet.
Well, I think conclusions have already been reached.
At least less than
we had a set of conclusions that you can explode things in a vacuum. We showed videos of explosion that you can fire guns in a vacuum. We showed videos of firing guns.
They farted, they should be floating. Did somebody say that?
What's that?
That's not what Gilly said.
Okay,
I don't know.
It sounded close. It was a good question.
They're traveling on like 27,000 miles per hour or something. Like, it's so much gravity going on.
Okay.
It's an amazing
By the way,
movie. Everybody has to see it in this room, right?
So
tell me you have seen it. Russian Mike, you've seen Gravity, right?
What?
I don't know if it's possible to fart in space, personally.
Yes,
well, if you farted in space in a spacesuit, it wouldn't propel you anywhere. But let's not let's just avoid that.
You don't know how well I fart, bro. I can propel myself.
You can blow it out the back of the. Okay, well, don't do that. That's
blow it out of the vacuum without a rig and everything. Bro.
How old are we?
You bust the zippers, bro.
So into the break, I wanted to show you something. At 8 minutes past the hour, I posted a picture of a toy water rocket, and I'll put a link to it in there. It got okay, let's see. It got a 5-star review. I don't know. But anyway, this is a toy that you can buy, for kids. And what happens is you fill it partially up with water, the rocket, and partially with air, and then you attach the pump to it, and you pump it up to pressurize the air. When you release the catch, the pressurized air forces the water out the back of the rocket, and the rocket flies up in the air. Okay? This will happen even in a vacuum chamber. It is not need to push off. It's not pushing off of the ground. It's not pushing off of the atmosphere. It is just pushing off of the rocket. This is the third law of motion as a plastic toy that you can get.
What happens if you do it at 0G? Like if you're skydiving, let's say, and you propel
Same
it.
thing. Good question. Same thing. The water will be propelled in one direction and the rocket will fly in the other direction.
You should have an Amazon link for like some things like this. That'd be like funny.
Well,
But
but anyway, that's how this works. You could do it skydiving. That's a testable hypothesis.
Yeah, but the trick with fucking skydiving is that you're like falling, right? But in this hypothetical cosmic vacuum, you're also falling? Is that the point? Or
he asked about skydiving. It's a condition of free fall, which is, could be considered microgravity. Obviously, you're going to have air resistance.
Just 0G
skydiving, but yeah, so it's a reasonable equivalence. It may not satisfy everybody's idea of what you need, but it's a reasonable question. It's a real question.
Yeah, no, that was using water. I guess you could have the propellant be like a gaseous. So that was just a question of the mass of gas.
Right. It is because of the incredibly high velocity. Yeah.
yeah, I'm just scrolling to 12 past the hour to try to see this little toy of yours.
8 minutes.
Do you
past
also
the
make
hour.
the Death Star and like the Millennium Falcon with your Legos? Does that make you feel like a man?
This toy, it just illustrates how the third law of motion works.
Where did you post this, bro? In the general chat? I didn't see anything.
I posted in general chat at 2:08 or 8 minutes past the hour. It's a white picture with a red plastic rocket.
Okay,
and
8
then
past the hour. Right? That's different than
and then 14 minutes past the hour, I pointed the link. So you could buy it in the United States or maybe get it shipped. Although it's $30. What the hell?
Gregory, do you see this? Into the break. Do you see this? I can't see it.
Dude, the definition of vacuum to me is just so funny on the floor, because literally if your car requires 30 psi in your tires and it goes down to 10 psi, you guys would be like, "Oh, there's a vacuum in my tire now."
No, Tora. If it got
concept. You have to understand
vacuum is non-vacuum.
If it got down to 25 torr in my tire, I would say it's a vacuum.
No, obviously, no. I'm saying obviously
If there's something in there, then it's a vacuum.
PSI at 0, right?
You don't. Do you understand the difference in gauge pressure and absolute pressure?
Yeah, but basically the definition of vacuum that you guys are going off of, instead of saying an absolute vacuum, you're just saying a lower amount of pressure than atmospheric pressure. That's what your claim for a vacuum is.
That's
And much,
exactly
much
what
lower.
it is.
No, see, but
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
the whole thing. When you're going to be describing these physics, like an object in motion stays in motion unless a force is acted upon it. Well, I'm sorry, but that's in a perfect 0. That's not at 10 to the negative 17 torr.
10 to the negative 17 torr is not a perfect vacuum.
Exactly. So none of your physics that you
It's a
try to
non-vacuum.
explain that are using a perfect vacuum can
There
work
is no
because the perfect vacuum doesn't exist.
There is no such thing.
Oh, so then
as
we
a
don't
perfect
exist in a
vacuum.
cosmic vacuum then.
There is no such thing as a perfect vacuum.
Exactly.
And if your
So
tires
all
are
of
at
your
just a moment, and if your tires are at 30 psi, That is 30 psi. Gauge pressure, that's actually 44.7 psi
I
absolute
said
pressure.
that
You
already.
get that?
I already
Right, so a
said that. I
non-vacuum.
said when it's at 0 psi, obviously it's at 14.7 psi. But what I was trying to relay to you is we can ignore that for right now, because what your guys' claim is that when my tire pressure goes from 30 psi to 10 psi, it's now in a vacuum.
No, that's not the claim at all.
Yes, it is, because it's
No,
saying
it is
it's
not.
14.7 psi here on
It
the map,
absolutely
and
is
if I
not.
go 250 miles up, it's a little lower than 14.7 psi. Therefore, now it's a vacuum.
He's just being invincibly ignorant with your reductio, right? That's all he's doing. Like what you said is
So-
obviously correct and analogous to their pattern of reasoning as they try to define vacuum. They define vacuum while there's something still there. So the vacuum is a non-vacuum, and given that definition of vacuum, then when the tire pressure goes from its normal pressure to a much lower pressure, even though something's still there, it's a vacuum now. It's just whistling past it.
It's because of how silly it sounds. They can't even realize that's how silly your model is, guys.
Oh my God.
So on when
So
you
you're
pull a
on-
vacuum, are you not?
Model so silly that you want to deny your model? But
Yeah,
this
it's
is-
really silly and
Nobody
everything.
is
So
denying our model. You simply
There's
don't
no
understand the
model
difference
denial
in
going
gauge
on.
pressure and absolute
Wait,
pressure.
one at a
That's
No,
time.
you
the
don't
problem.
understand it, given that you're just not acknowledging that are self-contradictory and
So
It is nothing.
obviously
There's nothing
reducibly absurd
Let me
contradictory
ask
about
you-
positions
What?
true.
What?
Let me
Okay. Okay.
There's nothing contradictory about it. If you go from 30 psi gauge pressure
Is
down
vacuum
to 10
vacuum?
psi gauge, let me
Wait, let me
finish.
finish, Greg.
Very
Down to
simple
let
10
me
question.
address
psi.
We can
that.
clear all
Greg,
this
Let
up
me
right
let me
now.
address that.
We can clear all
Greg,
this up right now. It's very simple. Is vacuum vacuum? Yes or no?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to ask you. All right. So when you pull a vacuum on something, you get it to a certain bar
hang on.
or whatever.
Let Blue Marble
Hold on,
answer.
hold
He's a
on. Let
grown
me
man.
finalize
Hang
the
on,
question.
just let
for you,
Blue Marble
all right?
answer my
No, hold
question
on.
that I
Just
asked.
let me finish.
Mrs. Stride, hang on. Mrs. Stride,
Hey,
Mrs. Stride, hang on a second. Mrs. Stride, hang on. So go ahead and ask the question, Gregory.
Blue Marble, very simply, vacuum is vacuum, yes? Blue Marble? Is that too difficult for you?
Blue marble science. You're being asked the question.
Oh, sorry. Vacuum is a term
Yeah,
we use
yeah,
for
very
a
simply,
pressure
very
that
simply.
is. Do you want to hear it or not?
So yes,
I don't
vacuum is
care.
vacuum.
I'll leave. I'll be glad to go.
Go ahead.
Run away. Go away.
Go ahead.
I know it's
Vacuum is a
difficult,
term
bro.
we use for.
When you contradict your own belief system, it's very hard.
I tell you what, I don't know. Blue's tried
Wait.
4 times to
Stop.
fucking
Quiet,
answer your
guys.
question.
Guys,
This is
Blue
fine.
Marble, they're muted. Go.
Great. Vacuum is a term we use for a pressure that is below atmospheric pressure. Anything below 14.7 psi absolute is something we refer to as a partial vacuum. A perfect vacuum would be zero absolute pressure, but that does not exist in nature. There's always some small amount of pressure. Now, does that answer your question?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. So
Then
what's a
I'm-
cosmic vacuum then?
Say
Yeah,
what?
well, let's try one more time, see if you can actually answer
We
the question
were
I did
talking
ask
about a
you.
cosmic vacuum, Gregory, right?
In the
Right, it's a very simple question. Very simple question. Watch.
what?
Vacuum is vacuum, correct?
No, not necessarily.
No.
That is
So
not what
vacuum
you.
is non-vacuum.
Gregory the
Vacuum is
pedantic
any
here.
pressure. You can refer to any pressure below atmospheric pressure as a vacuum.
So if my
Hang on.
tire
You're
requires
not answering the question I asked you. I'm not
One
gonna
at a time.
yield to this. It's so
One-
simple. He's
bro.
obfuscating simple questions.
One
Try
at a
again.
time.
So
One at a
vacuum is non-vacuum, correct?
I said vacuum is any pressure below atmospheric pressure.
It's not what I asked you. Stop answering a question I did not ask you.
What are
So
you
since
asking?
vacuum
Then?
is not
Ask a
vacuum,
question.
so then
Say
the
what?
next question is vacuum non-vacuum? Yes or no?
It's like asking if heavy is heavy. How heavy is heavy?
Exactly.
It's a very simple question
It's
that contains a
heavy.
tautology because
Vacuums
it's
are
so
vacuums.
elementary, so rudimentary that we have to establish, do we as grown adults at least understand that? So let's
So the
see if we
answer-
understand that. Let's try again. Is vacuum non-vacuum since vacuum is not vacuum? Is vacuum non-vacuum?
You're just talking in circles, and that's gibberish.
Gregory the pedantic
Total
here.
gibberish.
Okay, so you don't know the answer to that question. So
Gregory
vacuum
the
is not
pedantic here.
vacuum.
not a
and you
question.
don't know whether a vacuum is non-vacuum. So you sound rather confused.
Yeah,
So-
Gregory the
No,
pedantic
you're the
here.
one that sounds very confused, fella.
No,
You
No, no, no.
Nora,
don't
I'm
seem to
actually
understand.
scrutinizing
lower
you
You
for very
don't even seem to
basic
understand enough
tautologies
about
and very
this
basic
to answer
prima
a
facie
question.
facts. That's what I sound like.
You
So,
sound like somebody
if
that
you
knows
lower the
nothing about
pressure,
this
it gets
whatsoever.
Okay,
higher.
so
It's
we can
not
just skip past all the
therefore
deflected
Gilly.
behavior. We can just skip past that part. That's boring.
okay, so I'm gonna try to moderate here. So I think we've established that there is a belief that the term vacuum is either not meaningful or is somehow being illogically used. I'm not exactly sure how Gregory and Torah would put it, but I believe in Torah's good faith. So I do want to say that the question about whether or not we would consider something a vacuum under Blue Marble's definition would be yes. You could say there's a vacuum in my tires because or whatever. There's a vacuum at the top of Mount Everest because it's lower than 14.7 psi. Or I'm not sure how that would work exactly.
Yeah, flagrant
Okay, so
misnomers.
I
Yeah,
just want,
those are valid.
I just want to give you my
I never said
explanation
I
for
never.
why I bring this up though, is just because when you're talking about physics like those motion laws, that's all in perfect vacuum. Correct?
No, it's not.
Okay. See, so that's where we're
Omnivore.
gonna have to disagree.
It does not have
This
to. It does. No.
conversation is
It's
so
100%.
absurd.
Wait, guys.
Can I
Torah
engage
asked-
with Gregory, please?
Yeah, but just a second. Torah asked a real question, and it's a valid one. I just want to hit that. And also, Mr. Stride wants to get in, so I'm going to let him in next.
You want to hit that? Huh?
So the answer is Torah. No, the laws of motion do not assume a perfect vacuum in any way, shape, or form. That is absolutely not true. I don't know where that came from, but that's not the case. It's just not.
When you're
okay.
Now let me straighten something. Let me straighten something out really quickly, Omnivore. And in no way did I ever say the pressure in your tire could be considered a vacuum. I never said that.
I know, because of gauge versus absolute.
I never said that. These guys are
Okay.
making this shit up.
No,
Okay.
it
So
was
let's
an
not help them
analogy,
do that.
dude. It's an
don't
analogy.
poison the
You're
well.
I want to let
whole entire analogy, bro.
Mr. Stride get in because he asked about it. Go ahead, Mr. Stride.
Yeah, it's simply, I think it's more to Gregory or Gilly, like the term vacuum. Is it only a vacuum if it's an absolute vacuum?
Given that's what vacuum.
Yeah,
Wait,
the thing is
hang
that
on,
we were
hang on.
talking
I
about
thought you
earlier,
asked a
Jesus
better
Christ.
question than that.
Well,
Say the question
so
again?
that's just the first part. So then the second part is, if that's
Can I
the
answer?
only definition for vacuum, if
Wait a
that's
minute.
the
What the
only
hell are you
definition,
talking about? I didn't even answer your
if,
question. What are you talking about?
well, I thought, all
Can
right,
you
so
listen to what's being
is
said to you?
vacuum, so, all right, so did you understand my question or do you need me to repeat the first part?
That's why I said
We
repeat your
are at the
question. 'Cause I
point
thought you asked
now.
a
We
better
Would you like
question.
me to
understand
repeat the
that
first
words
part?
have meaning. Words
Okay,
actually
so is
mean something.
Go ahead. Ask the
so
question.
did you, all right, so the question is a vacuum only a vacuum if it's an absolute vacuum? That's the first part of the question.
What the hell is the difference between absolute vacuum and vacuum?
Well, it seems to be that you guys are having a confusion about that. So that's
What's the
can you
difference?
answer
Say
my,
the difference now.
is my question too confusing for anybody here to
What's
answer?
the difference?
Can I please answer? Can I handle this? Because what's
Why are
happening
you
right now is
answering the
really
question when it's not to
frustrating.
you?
Go ahead
Because
and
the
answer the question.
Globers are making a mess out of this for no good reason. Why
Go
are
ahead,
you guys on the Globe side so pedantic about every freaking thing instead of focusing on
We're
communication?
pedantic?
Well, it's a two-part
Yes.
question, and I can't get to the second
Gregory
part.
the
That's the
pedantic.
problem.
Let
So
me demonstrate.
instead
Let
of
me
all
demonstrate.
right, go ahead, please.
You're talking to a
So-
person who's manipulating on purpose, so you have to engage them accordingly, not fall into these
So let's
stupid
not poison
traps.
the well. Just please answer the
Okay,
first part of
I
the
wonder who's
question.
manipulating.
Okay, Gregory, ask me the question, is vacuum? Ask me the question.
That's not what I asked.
Gregory, ask the
Obviously,
question
Stride.
that you asked
Not
before.
obvious.
Gregory, ask me.
Is vacuum, Peter?
Yes.
Okay, so then vacuum is not non-vacuum, correct?
No. Vacuum is not vacuum. Vacuum is vacuum. Next question.
Okay,
There we
good.
go.
So I don't get to go to my second
He did
part.
good with
Like,
those questions. He
okay.
did good.
Next question,
He did good.
Gregory.
Yep,
Next
here
question.
we go. So is
Ask me if
vacuum?
vacuum exists in nature. Ask me that question.
That's not my question. So is
Okay.
vacuum? Just hang on. Just settle down a moment. Simmer down. Now focus. Is vacuum the absence of things?
Yes.
Okay. So can you show me? Now here's the question: can you show me wherever in the world at all is there the absence of things whatsoever?
No, there is no absence of things. The best we have is
Okay.
partial vacuum.
Wait, partial, complete
Partial,
absence?
partial absence. Very low density
Partial
of matter.
absence. So it's there and
Yes,
not there
partial absence.
simultaneously?
Yes, very low amount of matter per cubic
Yes.
meter.
Do you deny the law of
Extremely,
non-contradiction? Is that not valid?
no, extremely
Okay, so you do
low.
affirm the law of non-contradiction. So if it is,
Wait, go ahead. Finish your statement, Peter.
Partial vacuum is extremely low quantity of matter per cubic meter.
okay, so not a vacuum then, because there's something there, right?
Not a vacuum. That's why I'm qualifying it as partial vacuum.
Wait. That's just duplicitous doublespeak. What are you talking about?
Partial vacuum, very low
Yeah,
quantity
duplicitous
of matter.
doublespeak. Yeah,
Okay,
prefixing
let
vacuum
me
with
rephrase.
partial
Fine,
doesn't help your
fine,
issue.
fine.
You're calling that which is not a
Extreme.
vacuum a vacuum.
Good point. Thank you. Let me restate. Extremely low quantity of matter.
Okay. So then not a vacuum. Okay.
Not a vacuum. Right? Extremely low quantity of matter. Yes.
Okay. So show me anywhere in the world ever at all where there is a vacuum which is complete absence of something.
There is no such thing anywhere in the world. Doesn't exist.
Okay. So here's the final question. Well, I hope it's the final question. So then nothing exists, let alone the entire cosmos exists in a cosmic vacuum, correct?
No. The entire cosmos is mostly filled with extremely low quantity of matter.
But you said no to the question. Let's try again.
No.
It sounds like you're saying yes. Because I'm asking you, is this the case? Okay, let's try again just to be clear.
Yes.
To be clear. So then the sum total of all material entities don't exist in the vacuum then, right?
Correct. They don't exist in the vacuum.
So then the doctrine of everything existing in a cosmic vacuum is false then, correct?
It is false, yes.
Okay, good.
This is how it's done, guys. That's how you do it.
Okay. So
no, he'll come back with some more shit.
That basic aspect of scientism
he'll come back with some more shit.
Peter.
What, Gregory?
The king of the pedantics here. So by the time you can't pin him down,
mute NASA.
It's like holding on to an eel. It's like holding on to an eel.
I remember.
He's gonna slip out of it.
Why I muted him. So
yeah, I know. He muted me because he can't stand the fact that I actually know who he is and point out to everybody he's like an eel.
Okay.
So no, we don't need.
What does that mean?
Attacking his person, just attacking the arguments.
He has no argument.
I want.
Well, he's more of a
partial
eel.
That the cosmic vacuum doesn't exist, like Peter the Globe Dude.
Actually, the cosmic vacuum does exist. It's not a perfect vacuum, but it's good.
Why don't you debate with Peter now?
You see the problem?
Why don't you have a debate with Peter now?
Well, your argument is with Peter, so
you know you're arguing over labels, right? You're just arguing with them over labels. I 100%. Find it very easy to give up labels and replace them with other labels that are more palatable.
Language.
Yeah, 100%. But he's defined
language.
His problem
say
is
what you mean what you say.
So you're going to die on this hill with Gregory, right? You're going to die on this hill. You're going to die on this hill. You choose to die on the hill of arguing with a person who has no idea about physics over the term vacuum. You're going to die on this hill.
No, I know.
And you're going to take us down with you. You're going to take us down with you because we're going to listen to Gregory for another 15 minutes.
I don't die on this hill.
Is the violin player on the Titanic?
I don't die on this hill. Just Gregory just is a pedantic little corp.
Okay.
Okay.
So
with Peter, dude. So you guys should hash this out at this point.
What is the disagreement, Tara?
Peter says there's no such thing. The doctrine of the cosmic vacuum is illegitimate. It's not real. And I asked NASA Shill, "Do you believe in the cosmic vacuum?" He said, "Yeah, it's real." So I want.
Okay,
it's not-
so
it's not
just a
perfect
minute,
vacuum.
just a minute, NASA. Hang on a second, just a minute. Let me see if I can clear this up. I was trying desperately to moderate. I didn't hear everything. I'm going to unmute you, Gregory, but I want to try to clear this up with Torah. So,
Can I state my case, and then we'll see if we disagree?
go ahead and state your case briefly. Yes.
Okay. The cosmic volume, space, whatever you want to call it, is filled with large patches of extremely low density of matter per cubic meter.
We all agree.
Okay, there you go.
Those of us who think there is, intergalactic space.
Yes. And I didn't use the word vacuum, but I described exactly the same thing we all agree with, those of us who know what we're talking about regarding
Oh,
the
I
small.
see. Okay. So rather than calling it a vacuum, you're just going to describe everything
Because
existing
it's
in
not
a
a
vacuum.
vacuum. It's not a vacuum. If there's an amount of matter, non-zero amount of matter causes it not to be vacuum per the definition I agreed on with Gregory for the benefit of all of us. So therefore, cosmos is filled with areas of extremely low density of matter. That's it.
In
Yeah.
fact, okay, so that's actually helpful.
measured
Thank you
that?
for that. So this is where this question comes in. This is where this question is: there any quantity of volume anywhere in the world ever at all that is completely devoid of matter?
There isn't. I told you. There is not.
Gregory,
No. So there's not a
Gregory,
single quantity, not
let's
even the
not.
Not a single.
just to be
No,
clear,
no,
not even the smallest quantity of volume that is completely absent of matter.
Oh no, the smallest, yes.
Oh, so there are quantities of volume in the world
Yes.
that are completely
Yes.
devoid of matter?
Yes.
So would that make them vacuum?
Oh, so there is
Ask
so there is a
ask me
vacuum.
what they are. Ask me what they are now. Ask me.
Just
Well,
answer.
I mean,
Just tell us what they are.
I don't
It's
know why
the
you think
it's,
that.
I'm
Kind
gonna
of odd.
quote one of the greatest globers ever by the name of Rich Evans. And the answer is those areas exist between the particles of gas on Earth.
Okay, so
Between
you
every
believe that there
two
are. Okay, of course, you're
Yes,
still going.
between every two particles of gas here on Earth in the room you're sitting in is a small volume of space where there is no matter.
Also between the
Okay,
ears.
so then
of
there
certain
are.
Discord users.
So then there are. Right. So then there are vacuums, pockets of vacuums.
Yes, tiny little
So there's
pockets of
pockets of
vacuum.
nothing?
Yes.
Are there,
Yeah,
what,
are there
but
particles
yeah,
of
what?
oxygen in water?
Yeah, between the ears of every flat earther is a perfect vacuum.
Wait,
So
are there
so there's pockets of nothing.
Between years of
Is that
very
Right,
The
flat.
pockets
second
of
law
nothing.
of vacuum. Yes, the second law of vacuum. Between the ears of every flat earther, there's nearly perfect vacuum.
Is there
right.
oxygen
so there's no
particles?
oxygen?
All right.
I
Control.
kind of have a question that goes off of this a little bit.
Okay, Torah.
With this
Ask
question,
the
all
question.
right, are there oxygen particles in water?
Yes.
Generally,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, why then, if I take a bucket of water and then I put a fish in that bucket of water, do I have to supply it with oxygen?
Because it uses it up.
Okay, so the oxygen particles go away. So does that change the state
No,
of the
incorrect
water?
one. Oh my God, you don't even know
You
basic
enrich
chemistry.
the water.
Wait.
You asked a question.
Let's go with the. So why do I have to have like the bubble aerator in my fish tank? Is the question.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're saying it used up the oxygen in the water, so the water no longer is H2O. Is that correct?
No.
Water is H2O, but it's not O2. You understand? You don't understand basic chemistry. The fact that molecules, when molecules exist, that they.
Y'all have to,
I mean,
like,
come on.
get some
Hydrogen is
self-control.
flammable. Oxygen causes flame, and the water puts out fire.
Jeez,
Come on,
freaking
you can't
out.
be this dumb.
So wait a minute. Give Torah the real. I mean, that is the real answer, but give it to him in a better. So water is still H2O, but that's not.
Don't act a fool when you answer the
But
question.
you can't breathe H2O, Torah, right? Neither can the fish.
Can't breathe. Fish don't breathe H2O.
Can I do it the simple way? Save us all some time. Between the molecules of water, which are H2O, are molecules of oxygen separately floating around. They're mixed. It's a mixture of H2O and oxygen. And the same way you consume the oxygen in your room, and if your room were sealed, you would suffocate, you need to refill the oxygen, reintroduce it into the tank.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And now in the ocean, that just is naturally occurring with waves and everything, correct?
Yes.
From the atmosphere, yeah.
From the atmosphere?
Plus, there are creatures in the ocean that produce oxygen, right guys?
Right.
Yeah.
Wait,
Yes,
that's the
that's
one
true.
from the atmosphere. I'm curious.
It can mix into the water.
Oh,
You understand
like
diffusion, do you?
when a wave grabs
No,
the air and brings it back into the ocean.
At the surface, diffusion.
Yes,
If
gases
you don't
roll.
understand, this is chemistry. This is
like
chemistry 101. If you don't understand, chemistry 101, why are you here?
NASA.
Well,
Okay,
don't
don't
do
fair
that.
question.
Do the attacks.
Fair question.
Don't do
Can I drag us down to earth again? And we were talking about this hypothetical box with the rigged gun.
No,
we were talking about the cosmic vacuum, and now we have decided upon that the cosmic vacuum is not actually a vacuum.
Kind of.
It's not a perfect vacuum.
Just a minute. Just a minute. I'm going to answer the question if I understand it correctly. So, because there is disagreement over the use of the term vacuum, what we have decided is that a vacuum chamber, which is the plastic box that was around the gun in the video, is an area of very low gas density. So you wouldn't be able to breathe in there. You couldn't light a candle in there. There's essentially very little oxygen or other gases in there. The quote unquote cosmic vacuum is also a place of very low density of matter, or at least pockets of it are. So in that sense, they are the same. The cosmic space will have an even lower density of matter, but both of them are low density of matter areas.
Right. So, hence the question that was stomped through with all the spurring out, because how dare you scrutinize me attitude is infectious in the mind of some Globers. So, very simple question. So then there is a quantity of volume in the world that is completely devoid of matter, yes?
Yes.
Between gas particles.
Here on Earth.
Yes.
Here
Between
on Earth.
Particles. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So then nothing exists.
Yes. In between gas. What do you think? Let me ask you a question, Gregory. Here on Earth, in between two gas particles, what's between them?
Well, kind of talking past the question I just said before your question.
No.
You believe?
Yes, I would like to ask you a question.
That's what you just did.
It's a friendly exchange.
What do you mean? No. That's what you just did.
Okay, yes, and I promise to resume, but it's a friendly exchange between two grown-up men. So my question to you is: here on Earth,
you promise.
Yes, I do promise. What is between the gas particles?
Yeah. So since you can talk past my question, I can talk past yours. So nothing exists, right?
Okay, no, let me ask your question first. Yes, nothing exists. Yes. Now, can you answer my question?
Show me nothing.
Okay, beautiful. I will take two gas particles and the space between them. That's nothing.
Space is nothing?
The space between two particles is what I called nothing.
He's asking what
that
is
which is
between
something
the
nothing.
concept.
That's a flagrant misnomer.
Gregory,
There's
how would you
something
describe?
between
Help
the
me out.
concept.
Hey, can you help? Can you let me speak, please? Can you let me talk to the Gregory for a second? Gregory, how would you describe what is between two gas particles here on Earth?
How would I describe?
Yeah, using what word would you describe the thing that is between two gas particles?
I can say the long way or the short way. The long way would be the omnipresent substratum.
The short way. The short way, please.
The short way would be the ether.
Okay, that's the ether. Yes, the ether. The space between two particles is the ether.
That's not nothing then.
Okay, I'm sorry. From now on, I'm gonna say ether. So the space between two particles here on Earth is ether, and same in the cosmos.
Okay, so then
Well,
with that
just
being
say
said,
space-time.
then there isn't any quantity of volume devoid of matter, correct?
Is ether matter?
It's a concretely real omnipresent substratum. It's not nothing.
Is it matter? Is it the same as matter?
It's a concretely real omnipresent substratum.
Can you
Okay,
answer?
that's yes, I agree. I agree. That's what fills the cosmos. Yes.
Okay, so
it goes by different names.
Yes or no?
It
Just
goes
to be
by
very
different
clear,
names.
Because we're having a friendly chat, right? So then there isn't any quantity of volume anywhere ever at all devoid of matter, correct?
Correct. There's always the substratum. Yeah.
Okay.
It goes by different names.
We agree
that
this cosmological doctrine is asinine.
No, people just don't call it that. They call it something else.
By the way, I want to make something clear.
Your reply is kind of confused. Hang on. You just conceded with me that there is no quantity of volume devoid of matter. So then the idea that there are quantities of volume in the world that are devoid of matter is patently stupid.
But when I asked you if ether, hey, wait. When I asked you if ether was matter, you didn't say yes. You gave me a long answer. It's the underlying substratum. So I repeat my question: Is ether matter? Is ether matter?
Yeah, you should
yes or no question. Is ether matter?
Yeah, you should listen to the answer. Like, listen to my emphasis, especially. All right, are you ready?
Yeah.
It's concretely real. Concrete being synonymous with material. So is that not obviously a yes?
Thank you. So you're using the word matter in a certain sense. I accept it. So yes, there is no volume of cosmos devoid of matter, defined the way you just defined it.
Okay, so then you agree the metaphysical doctrine that there is some greater or lesser quantity of volume in the world ever wherever it is ever at all that is completely devoid of matter. That is a stupid metaphysical doctrine, correct?
No, because in that doctrine, the vocabulary that's wait. In that doctrine, the way it's commonly described using certain lingo, the words are used differently than you use them, and there's a different term for that, for what fills the space between gas particles. There's a different term used, but it is at some level analogous or even identical to what I will presume you mean when you describe ether.
Okay, you're just obfuscating the difference that I clearly defined
No,
with my line of
there's just a different vocabulary that's being used. That's all. Logically,
No,
it's the same thing.
We were also
it's not
talking
merely a
about
difference of rhetoric. It's a literal logical difference between there is a quantity of volume devoid of matter or there is not. That's not a
no. In
superficial
using your
rhetorical
terms,
difference. That's a very
there isn't. I just
logical
agreed with
dichotomy.
you. I just agreed with you.
So I okay. So I'm going to try.
So you're using that vocabulary.
So real quick. So Gregory, do you think that there are other terms that people might use to express the same concept?
Yeah.
Okay, I believe that is what he is referring to. So
I'm aware. I didn't need you to explain that to me.
Well, then maybe we don't have a misunderstanding. Then we can move forward.
No, we do have a misunderstanding, right? You're just obfuscating the point. This is not a matter of mere superficial rhetorical differences. This is a clear antithetical dichotomy. It's a clear antithesis between two sides of a dichotomy. Either there is a quantity of volume that is devoid of matter or not. Earlier, you just conceded that yes, there is no quantity of volume that is devoid of matter, which necessarily implies that the premise that there is a quantity of volume devoid of matter is patently false. It can't simultaneously be true.
Let me ask you a question, Gregory. Is ether quantifiable?
Yes, all.
Can ether be measured like we measure can we weigh ether like we weigh matter?
No.
Okay, so in that sense, it's slightly different than the way we use the term matter. We usually use it for things that can be quantified using weight.
You kind of have like this tacit presumption that if it is material, then you or any given human has the metaphysical ability to weigh it.
No, I'm just saying
metaphysical ability to weigh.
in the system that we use, in the
I didn't mean
lingo,
to say metaphysical ability. I meant to say just
in the
ability.
language that we use,
I
Gregory.
conflated metaphysical possibility with ability. Excuse me.
Okay.
Hello.
So yes,
Gregory,
so generally we can
can I-
blame matter. Go ahead, Peter.
Can I? Because let me just finish this line of inquiry. Gregory,
I
in the
doubt that you
language that
caught the
we
last thing I
use,
just said too. So you
in the
probably caught it.
language that we use on our side, we typically talk about matter as things that can be quantified using something like weight. You just said ether is matter, but it's slightly different because it's not quantifiable using weight. Okay, I'm just saying you're using, this just proves that you're using the word matter to a little bit differently than we do, and perhaps there's a lot of misunderstandings coming out of that. So I will engage with you,
Why do
accept
keep
your
re-emphasizing?
definition. I accept your definition of matter. You said ether fills the space between particles of gas. Ether is matter, and therefore I agree with you. Cosmos is, there's not a single place in cosmos that's devoid of matter defined as we just agreed to define it. What should we talk about next?
This goes
You're
into
trying to
the
reduce
whole
this to a
question
mere
that
superficial
needs
difference
to
of
be.
rhetoric. I'm not going to allow it. I'm not just taking it for granted. Like, no, it's a very simple dichotomy between either you affirm A is A or not. Either you affirm this side of the dichotomy or that side of the dichotomy. And if you affirm one or the other side of the dichotomy, then it's going to necessarily entail that the other side of the dichotomy would be false and or is false. Like, I'm not going to just let you reduce this to a mere superficial difference of rhetorical choices.
Hang on.
But
I'm going to let Gilly. Wait. I'm going to let Gilly Pong get in because he's been trying.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask then, does the vacuum chamber that has the rigged gun within it contain something? When you were using it earlier as some kind of a proof,
I can describe what it
you can
contains.
fire a gun inside of a vacuum.
Okay, yes. So that chamber contains
I'm not asking you, bro.
gun.
I'm actually asking Omnivore because we were in a discussion before you came in here.
I listened to you guys
regarding
for
an
20
experiment.
minutes and I almost got a heart attack from that discussion. So let me get my load off now because you guys damaged my brain very deeply. So
you don't have to get triggered. You don't have to get emotional. We're talking about ideas and concepts.
Gilly. 1 second, Peter. I'm going to answer Gilly, and then I'll return you to the regularly scheduled discussion. So, Gilly, the answer would be if we consider ether matter under Gregory's apparent definition, as I understood him to say it, then that vacuum chamber is filled with matter. Completely. Everything is filled with matter. We're just one giant block of matter as a cosmos. However, if we use matter in the terms that we usually use it, meaning something that could be quantified by weight, then that chamber that the gun was fired in it does have atoms of gas in it still, because it's not a perfect absolute vacuum, but it has very, very few of them compared to normal air pressure. So it is what would be called a vacuum by most scientists, and in fact by most people. Well, maybe not using the right word that you would prefer, Gregory, but that is the word that would generally be used. So
evidently you just don't value the law of identity. You just don't respect it.
Well, the problem is that I understand the law of identity, and it doesn't really apply to names that are given to things. It doesn't work the way it does.
Exactly.
No, it does not. No,
exactly what it concerns.
No, it does not. It absolutely does not.
You've got to be kidding me. Okay,
no,
blow out a citation.
A word. So
I was evident on the face of the term. But
a word is a semantic point. A word is a semantic pointer to a concept. The concept is a pointer to reality. So, So if I have a semantic concept of cat, and I use the term gato, Spanish for cat, that doesn't violate any law of identity. a cat
Not a
is
refutation
still
of my
a cat.
position.
I know
Guys,
you don't think
Not a
so, but that
refutation of my position.
I
let's
know
not
you
go
don't think
into
so, but
Totally
it
missing
is.
my
etymology,
point.
brothers.
Okay,
Let's not
so
go
Totally
into
anyway,
missing my point.
etymology. Let's
I
stick to the point,
So
right?
I want to go back
can
to
I now resume?
Peter. Yeah, can we go back to Peter and
So,
Greg?
Gregory, I want to spend a minute discussing this because you took
I'm
offense
not going
with
to
me
just
trying
talk
to read
past
this.
this. Like, no. If we can't agree on,
Well,
Go ahead.
I'm not
Say
saying
your thing.
no. I'm engaging you, actually, Gregory. So you admitted that ether was matter, and then you also admitted that this type of matter is not quantifiable the same way that other types of matter are. So it is a
this
slightly
needs to be
different
straight
thing.
out first. Before I engage you on this, got to get this straight, or else we cannot have a debate about anything at all. Do you
Okay.
agree that the law of identity, one of the basic laws of logic, concerns, right, in principle and essentially speaking in a way that successfully identifies what you're trying to refer to?
Yes,
Okay.
I
So,
do.
with that being said, if I'm trying to identify a given entity, right, that entity is not what it is not, correct?
Oh, that's really deep there.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. So, after that, I hope this is the final question I have to ask to finally get this over with. So, and I'm trying to identify a vacuum, and then I point to a non-vacuum. I have not successfully identified a vacuum, correct?
Correct. Correct.
Vacuum is a
Okay.
range,
So
Gregory.
in
It's
the
not
instance that someone
on or
points
off
Wait,
to,
thing.
per
don't
se,
start
a
the
low
vacuum.
pressure system where there is still material entity, still material
Yes.
things occupying the given volume, that is
Yes.
not an instance of identifying a vacuum, correct?
That's correct. And now,
All right, good,
after
good.
we've agreed on this, I will redefine vacuum using the terms that I accepted from you. So there is no such thing as vacuum or partial vacuum anywhere in the cosmos, because anywhere in the cosmos, there's always ether and then some non-zero amount of what I will call regular matter that is quantified cosmos where there is zero ether.
I think my connection
And
is breaking. That's what I'm doing that.
there's not a single place in cosmos where there is zero ether. There are some places where there's only ether and no regular matter, but no places where there is no ether. Does that make sense?
Okay, so then you agree that the metaphysical doctrine that there are quantities of volume completely devoid of matter is stupid then?
No, and let me explain.
Oh,
Because
Christ
when
alive.
people describe, yes, let me explain. Because when people
Flagrantly
describe that
inconsistent.
condition, when people describe that condition, they use the word matter to refer only to what I refer to as regular matter quantifiable by weight, and they don't mention ether. They take it for granted that ether is everywhere, so they don't talk about it.
Yeah, that's obviously
That's why.
inconsistent. Right? Just because they
No,
fail to be logically
right.
consistent in their proposition, it's not at all a justification for it.
Sure, but that's just how they talk about it. You may like it or not, but basically they don't say, oh, vacuum is a place that has only ether, because they take it for granted that ether is everywhere. It's so obvious that it's
That's not my
everywhere
point.
that they don't mention it. Yeah,
Not my point. Right?
I know.
You're not refuting my point. Right? The
Well,
fact that
I am just
even if you take
clarifying.
what you just said for granted, you're not being logically consistent. If there is ether, right, the omnipresent, the concretely real omnipresent substratum, then there is no quantity of volume at all whatsoever, ever at all. That is devoid of matter. It's very simple.
Absolutely, I agree with you. And the people that you refer to, the scientists, they are sloppy and they forget to mention that thing about ether out of sloppiness. When they describe vacuum, they forget, they're so sloppy that they forget to mention that the ether is there.
Right. So then they forget to
That's
stop
all
saying
there is
that
to it.
we live in the cosmic
That's all
vacuum.
there is to it. Yeah, so you and I could pen a letter to the Academy of Sciences, wherever, and ask them to kindly update their papers to be more precise, and always mention that the space is filled with ether or whatever name they choose for that thing.
That is yeah.
But it doesn't change anything because I just explained to you this is a given that ether fills the
So the
entire
instance of
space.
changing something is not an instance of changing something?
No, what I'm saying is in their sloppiness, they don't mention it, but they do mean it in their description of cosmos.
Oh, they didn't say what they mean, but they meant it. Okay.
Yeah, for example, they describe in their theories how electromagnetic waves propagate through
Isn't the
that
point of verbal language
propagate
to
through
say
ether.
what you mean? Isn't that the point?
Yeah, but they don't repeat it all the time. They just say, yes, the cosmos is filled with ether, electromagnetic
So they
waves
never say what
propagate
they mean.
through
How
it.
do you know they meant it?
Because I've read deeply into their papers.
Okay, what did you read that indicated that they do acknowledge the fact that there is no quantity of volume devoid of matter?
Well, for example, in Einstein's field equations, on the right side we have regular matter, and on the left side we have the distribution and shape of ether that's filling the space. So they're juxtaposed.
Do you now?
Yeah.
Einstein believed the ether is concretely real?
Yes, he just called it the Raumzeit.
What's that translated into English?
Space time.
Wait a minute. His TGR was said to rival the so-called luminiferous ether.
But that's just because, people nitpick on how to name things. Some people prefer one name, other people prefer other names.
Is it merely a denominational preference, or
No,
is it a
also
principial difference?
There is a principial difference, but that's orthogonal to the name chosen. The difference is in the behavior and the shape of the ether that he described differs from the one that was proposed previously, and perhaps that's why he chose a different name.
Okay, show me where he talks about the ether being real. Go ahead, give me the citation.
No, he talks about the space-time being real, but I'm just translating for you on the fly.
He's talking about non-ether.
Yeah, you could rename it to ether, and it would fly the same.
Yeah. Right, so not ether. Not just a denominational difference, but the same entity. Two different names, two different entities in principle.
No, he described the behavior of ether very differently, and as long as the ether behaves as per his field equations, he would be okay. Well, he's dead now, but we could convince him, we could beat it into him to use that name instead of space-time if we tried to.
Okay, why do you keep trying to reduce this to a mere denominational difference? It isn't that. You just acknowledge that he's not talking about ether in principle.
Every conversation with you is an exercise in relabeling things.
No, you're trying to escape the issue by trying to reduce it to a mere denomination.
I'm being honest with you.
Point.
Every conversation
my point isn't
with you,
you're not calling it this word. I'm saying you're not calling it as it is. That's the point, in principle or in reality.
Yeah, you're not calling matter the things that usually people call matter, but I met you in the middle.
I'm not committing the same error, right? I'm not committing that error.
When you
brother, the
describe
errors
matter,
you're cannot be even counted.
When you
no, I'm not. Yeah, so I just exposed you. Your disingenuous participation in this line of scrutiny with me.
Completely correct.
You're trying to make it seem as though I'm the one just merely reducing it to a denominational distinction when that's not my point at all.
Yeah, but you are, because your use of
the term
matter for something that is intangible, immeasurable.
You can't dictate to me what my point is.
You were very clear. You were very clear about it.
You cannot do that on me.
One at a time, please.
When you defined matter,
what gives him the right to dictate to me what my point is?
When you define matter, you were very clear about how you consider an intangible, non-measurable material or substrate to be matter.
So digging your heels to try and insist your obviously erroneous critique, right?
No,
shut up and not do that.
No. Peter did a great thing by meeting you halfway, but now that you're
it wasn't meeting me halfway.
Now that you are met halfway,
attacking the point that isn't my point isn't meeting me halfway.
Now that you are, when he used that definition and said, "Okay, then I can agree with your statement."
It's not meeting me halfway. That's not what happened.
No, it's. But given that he agreed to your definition, what we see is not that you have a cogent point that, once your terms are cleared up, is logically agreeable. What we see is that
you're just building this narrative. You're not engaging my point. What's my point, Omnivore? What's my point, Omnivore?
So, I'll finish what I'm saying, and then I'll tell you what
what's my point, Omnivore?
So, what you're saying is that you have defined matter in a way that essentially makes an ethereal substance matter, okay, as we would normally think of it, which means that we conclude that the entire universe is filled with matter as we would normally think of it, which obviously isn't the case. We're not encased in a block of material. So what that concludes is that therefore your definition of matter requires some other element of matter, which is yet undetermined. We don't define what makes something matter in your view. I'm almost there.
Close it now.
So yeah, so you're right. Your definition of matter is freaking bizarre, but when agreed with,
you didn't attack what I said.
You just want to continue fighting. I'm done now.
Are you done attacking Strawman now? Are you done now?
I'm done.
Okay, good. But you didn't attack my position. So let's see if you actually engage my position this time. What's my position?
We don't know. That's what we're trying to find out.
You don't know. Do you agree with that anymore?
No. I think your position is that you want to have an argument about whether or not a worldview makes sense, but when you have to confront your own definition of it, well, so is ether matter? This is really
easy. You didn't actually say what my position is.
Your position is that ether is matter, Gregory. That is the problem.
Okay, that wasn't the point.
Let me get in.
I know, but that is your position.
That was not the major point of dispute. You're not tracking.
But that is
his main point was.
But it's not the major point of dispute. You're not tracking.
That the entire cosmos is filled with at least ether.
Right. So, Gilly, did you have something? Gilly? No. Okay.
Yeah.
So Omnivore failed to actually say what my point was under the major point of dispute, just to make that clear.
Well, I just want to point out that now, in order to prove there is a cosmic vacuum, there has been an invocation of ether, the metaphysical substratum that contains everything.
Yes.
In order to prove your point of a cosmic vacuum. That's the dilemma that I'm seeing.
I redefined. I gave up, and I redefined vacuum as volume that's filled with at least ether, and then optionally other regular matter.
I redefined vacuum as not vacuum.
Real quick, Gilly Pong. Ether was not invoked to define or to explain cosmic vacuum. Ether was invoked because Gregory's understanding of reality.
No, you define what Peter just said about his position. You're not tracking
it. It means that it would be a space filled
you're defying what Peter said about his rebuttal to me.
Gregory's claim.
It's not a rebuttal. I didn't even provide a rebuttal. I didn't even provide a rebuttal.
You didn't provide a rebuttal, then you didn't refute anything I said there.
It's metaphysical.
No, I haven't.
Huge.
That's right.
It's a huge metaphysical claim.
Gregory, I'm trying to find a place where you even make a statement with which I could disagree.
You're trying to track, but you're failing to track. Okay. Obviously.
No, I'm tracking all the way. So I am giving up all the definitions.
You're just trying to find the position. If you found it, you wouldn't be trying to find it. You found it.
No, he did. He found it, Gregory. Now he's explaining it. Go ahead.
It's like tracking a deer. You track it until you find it. So we're halfway there.
So did you find it yet or not?
No, not yet, but I'm halfway there.
Oh, no, so you're not tracking, right?
Well, I am tracking.
Yeah,
so go ahead and keep equivocating tracking.
Gregory, I have just gave up all the definitions to accommodate you. I've redefined cosmos as consisting of a substrata known as ether, which is a type of matter that's not quantifiable by weight. And I have told you that when scientists say perfect vacuum, that means something that contains only ether, like the space between two gas particles. And when they say partial vacuum, that's something that contains ether and at least one particle of regular matter. So far, so good. Then I explained to you that a lot of the mainstream theories that you are familiar with are confusing to you because sloppy scientists who write those papers forget to mention ether. I've apologized. I haven't yet, but now I am apologizing on their behalf for their sloppiness. And I am curious to see what's next and what point you're driving towards, because so far we agree with everything other than nomenclature.
Okay, so you're acting as though I didn't get to the point, even though I've already said the point. You conceded to my refutation several times. You're just being dishonest and disingenuous.
I conceded to everything. Now tell me what's interesting about
so then why are you acting as though I didn't get to the point when I have?
Okay, but is that it? That's all there was to it? Was that the basis of the ether?
So, Greg, all you have to say is that you expose the obvious redefinition fallacy that you people are constantly appealing to protect your cosmic vacuum doctrine, and the self-contradiction of calling that which is non-vacuum a vacuum. Oh, that's all.
That you have done.
As though it's a negligible or peripheral ancillary point.
That you have done. That you have succeeded at. Thank you. Thank you for doing that, Gregory.
Okay, so thank you for your disingenuous concession, pretending as though I didn't make a significant point that is a refutation to your metaphysics.
Okay. So now I have a question for you. Do you agree that the presence of regular matter and energy can affect the shape and distribution of ether?
Can affect the shape and distribution of ether?
Yeah. Since ether is a matter, do you agree that other matter, let's call it regular matter just to differentiate, can affect its presence, can affect the shape of the ether medium that surrounds it?
Yes.
Okay, good. Welcome to Einstein's field equation.
Yes, because ether is the container.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
you have a
guys,
cup.
Welcome.
What is inside?
Just to be clear, you're not talking to Gilly and not answering Maya. Just to be clear.
Welcome to Einstein's field equations, guys. That's how you do it. That's how you get these guys on board. You just agree with all their terms, and you drive the meaning, not the words.
You didn't win anything, man.
Right, so just defy the law of identity, right? So just pretend like it's the same thing, just two different names.
No, just listen to the master.
Two different things in principle.
Listen to the master. Listen to the master of identity, aka Gregory. Work with him. Accept his labels. Drive the meaning. Reach a conclusion.
See, he's acting like he's like mastering some tactic with me. All he's doing is trying to excuse himself from violating the law of identity. Right?
You have
so now he has to talk through this because he can't allow me to expose his error. He can't have that. Right? So to blast through this sophistry, right? To sit up here and act as though we're talking about the same thing just by two different names is not at all sincere nor intellectually honest. You know,
describe.
So as it concerns Einstein's doctrine, it is obviously talking about something that is a different entity in principle, as opposed to the so-called ether. Ether is not space nor time nor space-time. Space-time is not ether nor space nor time, according to Einstein. So notice he has to keep chirping to me as I say this refutation. And eventually it's just going to be
bring it home, Gregory.
And people are just going to start talking through me.
Ether
see if I'm right.
Equals space. Boom.
Yes, there you go. Boom. Exactly. Boom. Ether equals space. Boom. I agree.
Yeah, it
Gregory,
doesn't equal that at all.
Describe the properties of ether. Describe the properties of ether.
It is the space between things. It's where the Wi-Fi connects to another Wi-Fi point.
Yes, that's true.
Exactly. That is happening on Earth. Now prove it in the cosmic vacuum, sir.
There is no cosmic vacuum. There's cosmic ether vacuum.
Thank you. That was our whole point like 2 hours ago. What's going on?
Yeah. Well, welcome. Welcome.
So
we built some bridges.
Yes. So it's the bending of the ether that causes mass to appear to attract mass.
Absolutely. The bending of the ether, yes.
No. Right, so we're going to
Depending
stop
on the
pretending that
ether.
false premises are true now. We're going to actually engage the negation and the refutation now, or no? Just going to keep talking.
Yeah, let's engage.
can't hear
Does
me saying no,
regular
that's wrong.
matter affect ether, Gregory?
Okay, so let's see if you can track now. So ask your question again, because you went down that line with Gilly,
Okay.
and still disingenuously pretending like you talk about the same thing just by two different names. Okay.
Sure thing.
So
let's see if I'm tracking. Does regular matter affect ether? Does its presence affect ether that's in its neighborhood?
Yes, there is an interactive relationship between regular matter and ether.
Okay. How would you describe that relationship?
It's a variety of different things. It's not just one type
Okay,
of relationship.
describe it. Describe
It's a
it as
variety
well
of
as
different.
you can.
You're not tracking. Like everything that happens, there's a variety. There's a vast plethora of different types of actions happening.
Okay.
Not just one.
Okay. Is that it?
Given if you want me to answer accurately, it's not just one type of action.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's not just one type. I agree.
Okay, so do you acknowledge that ether is not space-time in principle?
My description of ether is uses this equation here. That's in the general chat. Ether is on the left side. On the right side is regular matter, asterisk.
Okay, so you believe ether is mathematical categories?
No, this is a mathematical description of its properties and how regular matter affects it.
That doesn't answer my question.
It's not mathematical, no.
Okay, so what was my question?
You said is ether mathematical?
It's not what I asked you. Not the first question I asked
Okay, please repeat the question.
you. Okay, yeah. See, there it is again. Just gonna highlight this. It's not me not tracking. Right? You're failing to track. Let's try again. Do you acknowledge that ether is not space-time?
You would have to tell me what ether is for me to be able to answer that.
Why? We just went to this.
Because,
like, you're gonna pretend like we didn't just have this discussion we just had?
Okay.
So,
because to compare it,
okay.
because you're asking me. Wait, because you're asking me
Yes.
to compare it against another concept that I'm familiar with. But to do that, I need to understand what ether is in your description.
Hang on. Do you have amnesia? Because we just discussed it. You repeated back to me what ether is several times. Do you have amnesia?
But you gave me only a very generic description. In that sense, yes, it is space-time.
No. Do you have amnesia? That's what I asked you.
I don't know.
He does not have amnesia.
Okay, so then you do remember the answer that you're asking for, which you said several times already, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, maybe I had temporary amnesia. What was your description of ether?
So you do have amnesia. Okay. Just can't remain consistent. So
Okay.
you forgot what ether is?
Yes.
Your definition of okay.
Omnipresent substrate. Concretely real omnipresent substrate.
In that sense, it's the same as space-time, yes.
Okay, the problem is, either you have a reification of space and time with a simple portmanteau combining space and time into one supposed word, or you have a misnomer identifying that which is not space nor time.
Yeah.
You mean like a reification in the way of applying physical properties, or what?
No, I'm talking to Gregory now. So Gregory, the way I understand space-time, those words, is not that it's space plus time. It's the substrata that affects the relationship between regular matter and space and time, but it's not those things. It's the substrata.
Okay, so then you're impaled on the second horn of the dilemma then.
What was it?
That's a misnomer.
Mm-hmm. It's a misnomer. I already gave it up. I'm calling it ether.
Okay, good. So then Einstein was wrong.
I wish Einstein had called
non-ether.
it ether. Yeah, I wish he had called it ether, but he didn't. So we just have to translate on the fly. Wherever we see space-time, we just gotta go scratch it.
You can't just retroactively change what he meant. Like,
yeah, you can. It's just a name. Just a name. The round side.
No,
I think
not
it
just
was
the name.
Was
not just the name. Right. The implication of his doctrine is that it's just a misnomer. But he wasn't trying to talk about ether, but just called it a misnomer. He's talking about something that's non-ether. That was his point.
Look, there was this guy Minkowski, German Polish Jew. I apologize as a Polish person on his behalf, and he should have called it ether, but he didn't. So,
Right, so he should have been talking about ether, not merely called it ether. It wasn't as though he was trying to talk about ether, but just failed to identify it by the name in verbal or textual language. He was talking about something else.
Well, he was talking about
something else.
Yeah, but one thing he was talking about was the substrata that fills the space. The cosmos.
Well,
Cosmos.
would it by implication be a substratum? It wasn't talking about matter.
Yeah. That's what he was talking about. He wasn't. It was early days, Gregory, and they didn't have the terminology just right.
So how are you determining this? Like, I'm not just take for granted your
I've been
presumption
listening
that
to
they.
you.
Let me finish the reply. Let me finish it.
Yeah.
So how are you actually coming to know that they were talking about ether, that they meant to talk about ether, but just call it a misnomer, as opposed to they were not attempting to talk about ether. They did not mean to talk about ether and talked about a non-ether.
Let me explain how I've come to this conclusion. First of all, I've read some papers by Einstein about the space-time thingy, and then I've listened to you talk on the subject of the substrata for many, many hours, and I've learned from you about what you mean by that, and I have realized that these two things are compatible so far. So that's how I know.
Okay, that's vague. What did you read?
I've read the General Theory of Relativity.
Okay, cite the passage.
Yes, 1 second, please.
While we wait, we were talking about an experiment inside of a vacuum chamber.
No,
don't worry, I'll
remember.
I have a memory like an elephant.
No, but I disagree.
We're still trying to describe a vacuum.
Don't bail him out. Don't bail him out. I'm talking to Gregory.
He's not bailing anyone out. I'm not the one that needs to be bailed out.
Bros.
Just give me 1 freaking second to copy the silly link, and then we will resume. Okay? Just 1 second.
It's a silly link. What does that mean?
It's no problem.
Here's the link.
We are having a discussion, and we're all adults. We don't want to obfuscate or go into rhetoric.
Wait a minute. I said cite the passage, not post the link.
No, this entire paper needs to be read
cite the passage.
That the whole thing is the passage.
No, not hurl an elephant, right? Cite the passage.
The passage about what?
You have amnesia again. You're supposed to be citing the passage that you exegeted so that you can demonstrate that you know that Einstein or whoever else meant to talk about ether rather than meaning to talk about non-ether.
No,
cite the passage.
Such passage does not exist because I am the first human being to realize. Yes, I am the first human being.
You couldn't possibly know what they meant.
Well, I know what they meant, and I know what you meant, and that's why I proposed equivalence between what you're saying and what they were saying. They were not aware of you.
Hang on. Pause before someone mutes me and tries to talk to this point. If the passage doesn't exist, then you couldn't have successfully exegeted the passage they wrote that supposedly indicated that they meant to talk about ether, but just called it a misnomer.
No, they didn't mean to. They didn't mean the ether that you mean because they didn't know you. I know you. I know their works, and that's why I propose an Einstein-Gregory equivalence principle.
Okay, way to obfuscate the issue. So obviously you're trying to walk around the fact that you didn't actually exegete any passage that they authored. I began speaking before you did. Okay.
Well, it's impossible because the
I began speaking before he did, moderators, just to be clear. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you didn't actually read a passage. You didn't actually exegete a passage that they authored that conveyed that they meant to talk about ether, but just called it a misnomer. So you just failed. So you didn't actually demonstrate that you know that they meant to talk about ether.
Yes, the only way I could demonstrate that they were talking about the same thing that you're talking is by having this conversation with you, understanding the meaning behind your words, and realizing that they're equivalent. And so far, I have done that myself.
Right. So you failed to demonstrate that you know that. Right. So you failed to demonstrate.
No, I know that. My entire interaction
you failed to demonstrate
with
that you know that's what they meant.
My entire interaction with you was a demonstration that that's what they meant.
It's obviously not what you did. You have not done what is logically necessary to demonstrate that you know that they meant to talk about ether. So you're just trying to take for granted, tacitly and now explicitly, this equivalency that you don't actually have an equivalence to. We're not talking about the same thing just by two different names. You cannot escape this issue by just denying that very fact that in principle, I'm talking about a different entity besides them. We're not talking about the same entity with two different labels.
It's impossible for Minkowski and Einstein to talk about the same thing that you're talking about because both of these men died before you were born.
Okay, so then they did not talk about the same entity I was talking. I began speaking before him. Just to be clear. Okay, then it is not possible, according to you. In principle, given what you just said, it's not possible for them to talk about the same thing I was talking about. So they couldn't have possibly been talking about the same thing just by a misnomer. Thank you for your concession.
Yes. It was impossible for them to realize that they meant what you mean because you weren't born yet, but it is possible for me to reach that conclusion. It is me. I am the author of this statement. There is a new model, Einstein-Gregory model of cosmology. And Einstein and Minkowski were not aware, unfortunately, they died too soon to realize that that was the case.
Stop repeating your
I am fortunate enough to be able to realize that.
Yes, stop repeating your concession now. Thank you.
Showing us this model.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. It was interesting so much.
Right, so the
real
point
quick,
of all that, to tie a full circle back to the relevant point of discussion. So he just conceded that he failed to demonstrate that they were talking about the same thing I'm talking about, just by a mere misnomer. So given that he failed to demonstrate
Gregory,
that,
you don't
my
understand.
critique is not superfluous.
You
I'll finish eventually. So my critique is not at all superfluous. So then, given that he conceded to the fact that there is no quantity of volume whatsoever that is devoid of matter, that there is the ether that is the omnipresent concretely real substratum, then the doctrine that there is any quantity of volume anywhere in the world ever at all that's completely devoid of matter is absolutely false.
What the fuck is he saying?
That is not at all the same point that Einstein was conveying in general relativity.
Gregory, I think you're suffering.
Okay. Go ahead, misinformation. Go ahead, miss.
I just wanted to say that Gregory was so happy that we found the Einstein-Gregory model that he was suffering a bit from a salad in the end. Can you repeat what you said?
Can I vainly repeat what I just said again? Sure, it's possible.
No, please don't.
Yeah,
please don't.
yeah.
No,
I wasn't going to.
I don't think we need a repeat, a repetition of that.
I was not going to.
Good. Okay. So, I, having heard Peter's exegesis of this, have to say that I don't. Whichever. Has to say that I don't see the distinction because of the way that you define ether as this substratum that exists through everything and has, different kinds of interaction with matter, and propagates electromagnetic waves, I would guess. To me, I don't see how that is distinguished from Einstein's space-time. I don't see the distinction.
So is that a prompt for me to explain the difference that I just said less than 2 minutes ago, or you just give me all
you might want to can you amplify what you think the difference is?
Okay, so with Einstein, to make this clear, it's either a reification of space and time, just making a portmanteau of the two words together with a hyphen in between the two, or it's a misnomer using the term space and time to refer to what is by implication, but not explicitly what he meant to convey, a concretely real omnipresent substratum, as opposed to the ether, which is in principle and explicitly a concretely real substratum, which all other matter and interactions subsist of.
So that to me, that I don't understand what you're saying there.
Okay, so which part of that do you not understand?
So his use of the term space-time came from the understanding of the coordinate system in which we exist, three-dimensional space, and the passage of time, a fourth dimensional or a time-like dimension. So I think we concretely experience both of those. We experience an existence in three-dimensional space, and we experience a passage of time. So regardless of what he called it, his, the field equation that Peter showed you is a description of how matter, the regular matter, interacts with whatever space-time is. That's what that field equation defines. So
okay, so are you correcting me, or are you still just reiterating your bottle power?
Well, I'm telling you that exists everywhere. It is not what you can't weigh it similar to your ether. And it is, if you want to consider a medium, it is a medium through which electromagnetic waves propagate. I don't see what the words that you hit on there. Oh, he's using the wrong words for it. That doesn't land for me. It's just a complaint about how he named it, and it's clear why he named it that way.
Okay, so I'm about to tell you again what the problem is, and if you tell me I don't see the error, it's not a refutation, anything. It's just more autobiography, which very well you cannot understand. That's possible. So be it. So the error, the problem is that you have one position that is explicitly logically consistent with trying to identify a concretely real entity which all other entities subsist in, okay? The ether, aka luminiferous ether, but that's just redundant because light and everything else propagates through it and or it subsists it, okay? In contrast to the doctrine of space-time, which is a silly rival, I would agree. The doctrine of general relativity, space-time curvature, is a stupid rival to ether because it's either a idiotic reification of space and time, supposedly meshing the two in some undefinable, ineffable, ontic manner, and then using the portmanteau with a hyphen in between space and time, or it's just a misnomer for the concretely real omnipresent substrata.
It's a misnomer.
So in this case, yeah, it would. In the way that Peter laid out his argument, it would just be a misnomer. What he describes in the field equation would be the behavior of the ether.
One thing I would like to add, Einstein was German, so was Minkowski. They're not very creative people in that way. So poor choice of words. What can we say? Die Raumzeit, horrible.
Relativity.
Ether, beautiful word. Okay, unfortunate. They were not poetic guys. Okay, give them a pass. It's a misnomer. Let's go. Welcome to Greglativity.
Relativity, that's what Mulder typed.
Yeah, but it doesn't roll off the tongue. Greglativity, I like that.
That's clunky.
Maybe it's
We've made something here, guys. This server has been around for what, a couple of months, and we already have an improved theory of relativity thanks to our conversations with Gregory. That's something.
Okay.
Improved
This is funny.
flat Earth physics.
Yeah, well,
So,
the physics
say the
remains
question in
unchanged.
English.
We
What is
just
not question,
renamed
excuse me,
space-time.
the equation. Say this equation in English.
So the equation is the left side is the shape of the ether, and the right side is the distribution of regular matter asterisk.
That's it. That's the complete way to say that.
Yeah. The left side is shape of ether. Right side is distribution of regular matter and energy. I have to say, but okay, in a given area.
Now, is this equation supposed to be mathematically reiterative of the proposition that the sheer existence of matter purrs ether?
The presence of it in a given area shapes ether, yes.
Okay. So I would also contend with that premise.
I knew it.
Okay. Because the sheer existence of anything doesn't cause anything.
No.
Right. So then that proposition would be false. It's just patently
Yeah,
false.
but that's why we're
false,
not making
ontological
that
or
proposition.
metaphysical
Yeah,
proposition.
we're not making that proposition for that very reason.
Okay, so then if it's not that proposition, then what is the proposition that this math equation is illustrative?
The proposition is right. The proposition is if we distribute regular matter, the right side of the equation, in a certain way, we're going to get a certain shape of ether. That's the result of that.
What's the cause? You just reiterated the very premise. You just reiterated you just reaffirmed the proposition you just denied.
Yeah. No. I denied something else. It's the presence of the regular matter in that space displaces ether in a certain way, and the left side describes that displacement, if you will.
Okay.
You know
what's
how
the
an
proposition
object
you denied, and what's the proposition you affirmed succinctly?
The one I affirm is by analogy. You know, when you place an object in water, it's going to displace the medium in a certain way. It's kind of, you can think of it like this: when you place matter in ether, it's going to displace it in a certain way. That's all it says.
So water
You didn't articulate the juxtaposition. I said, what's the proposition you deny, and then what's the proposition you affirm?
Oh, I'm not denying. I'm misunderstood. I'm not denying anything.
You just contradicted yourself. You just said, I denied this other proposition. Let's try again.
Well,
what
I
is
made
the
a mistake.
proposition that this math equation is reiterative of?
Simplify the vocabulary for me. What does this equation state?
Yes. What does this equation convey?
Okay. It conveys that if you take regular matter and you place it in a certain area, it's going to displace the ether.
Okay, so what is the cause of the ether being
The
displaced?
presence. Oh, we don't know. That's just the law of nature.
But you just said a causation hypothesis.
No, it's a correlation. If matter is present in a given area, it displaces the ether in a certain way, predicted by this, described by this equation. And if
What
matter
type of
is not
correlation?
present, presence of matter, displacement of ether.
Okay, what's the correlation?
That's the correlation, yes.
That's not a correlation. It's just two particular instances.
No, if matter present, then this shape of ether. If matter not present, then not this shape of ether.
Okay, so that's another causation hypothesis.
Yes.
Okay, so I guess it is a causation hypothesis, which is again false.
No, it's a correlation hypothesis. There is such a correlation between the shape of ether and the matter
so it's not
present.
causation, but you just affirmed that it was causation.
We don't know the causation. It's a law of nature.
Okay, so you just affirmed it was causation. Now you're saying it's not.
No, I apologize for that inconsistency. It's not causation. It's a law of nature that we don't understand the causation.
Okay, so what is the correlation? Because correlation is vague. So what type of correlation?
Correlation. Okay, if I were to take a certain amount of regular matter, distributed in a given volume of space, it will displace ether in the way described by the left side of the equation.
Okay, you just reiterated another causation hypothesis, but you just said it's not causation.
No, that's the correlation. We've observed this correlation.
You just ascribed the instance of the ether displacing to the presence or existence of matter.
Yes, presence.
Right. You ascribed causal power to the mere presence / existence of the matter to cause the ether to be displaced.
I apologize if I did. We have observed in nature that there is a correlation, very strong, super strong correlation between the presence of matter and the displacement of ether in that area of space.
And now
that's
specify the nature of that correlation.
We don't know. It's a law of nature.
Okay, so it's just a vague premise. It's the fallacy of ambiguity.
That's the best we can do right now.
Okay. So if the premise that the equation is supposedly reiterative of is ambiguous, then the equation necessarily is ambiguous. That's what it's reiterative of. It's reiterative of a fallaciously ambiguous premise.
It's ambiguous, unfortunately, but don't worry. The search for the causation mechanism for this is a very active area of study in modern day physics. It's actually the holy grail of modern day physics, is answering the question you're asking. So, we're just fallible, limited human beings. That's all we know right now, but we're working hard to learn more about nature.
Okay, next. That's that.
Done. Thank you. This was good. Joyful too. Very demure.
It was good content.
What is that? Relativity. I predate myself in this early or late 19th century photo, and I got Kane.
I think Gregory hasn't mastered silent reading yet.
Well, I'm not reading anything. Well, except the two words that I did read.
It's a skill.
It is a skill. That is true.
But the thing that we're facing right now is that we were originally talking about a gun on a rig inside of a vacuum chamber on Earth, and that somehow proving something about the cosmic vacuum that is not really a vacuum because it contains something. And now we are trying to prove ether to everyone around us, which is actually the fifth element above. Yeah.
I saw that movie.
Water, fire, air, ether. We're back like 600, 1,000 years, a millennia back.
So okay, so now let's explain the gun. Let's explain the gun.
Physics,
okay,
not
let's talk about the gun.
Vacuums and ether.
Okay.
Can we
so
relax?
let's go.
Talk to y'all later.
Let's go. Gilly, let's go. I will explain the gun problem to you using the terms that we using relativity. Okay, let's go.
Y'all go ahead. Bye, Peter. Bye.
Bye. Gilly, what's your problem with the gun? Explain. Now we can reframe the gun experiment.
The rig.
Okay.
Where
so
is
let me
the rig of the gun being held up inside of a vacuum?
Okay. So in the experiment that Omnivore shared, or the demonstration, we should say, there is a container. From this container, people have pumped out as much as regular matter as they could in the form of the gas, leaving mostly ether and a little bit of residual gas, but very tiny amounts. Then they introduced into that container, or probably they did that first, but don't nitpick on that, please. They introduced additional regular matter in the form of the rig, the gun, and the content of the gun. And then they fired the gun to demonstrate that the bullet could be propelled by the gases contained within the cartridge, or the powder that transforms into the gas within the cartridge, without any external oxidizer such as oxygen. That's all they're showing in that demonstration.
So how does that prove you can fire a gun in a cosmic vacuum?
What this proves that you can fire a gun in a situation where there's mostly ether and almost no gas surrounding the gun.
But you do realize that you're now talking about the metaphysical ether.
Yes.
Okay. Are you an
I'm talking
atheist?
about the ether that Gregory described with the I cannot repeat it, but it's this like omnipresent substratum. That's yes, I do realize that.
Peter, are you an atheist?
No.
No, you believe in God.
Yes.
You believe that there's a cause above all causes within this effects that we are experiencing.
Yes.
I am also a Christian for what it's worth.
All right. So
am I.
The thing with all of this is that we are trying to prove that vacuum is not a vacuum, actually. It actually contains something.
Yes.
But you have a dilemma that still lies in your field where you have to prove that without going into the fallacy of appealing to authority.
Yes, I can.
And that's a whole fucking dilemma, man. That's like physics 101. You have to be able to create the Baconian method. You have to be able to exercise the Baconian method. Sorry.
Okay, so I shall do that. What we were demonstrating in that particular case was some people are confused if combustion of any kind can be possible in an environment filled with ether, because they don't believe that ether can serve as an oxidizer. So they're asking, how can things combust if the only thing surrounding them is ether? And our answer through that demonstration is they can combust because a chemical reaction can occur without oxygen being present as a gas surrounding the environment. And the gun firing in a chamber filled with mostly ether is proof of that. That's it. That's the only thing.
What do you mean by ether? What is ether? It's like what you measure by the Kashmir effect?
No, ether is space-time.
Yeah, that's the whole.
Oh, so it's equivalent to space-time. So why then call it ether?
Can I finish my point? Can I finish my point?
Because we're building, yes, because we're building bridges.
Can I finish my point, brothers?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the whole issue that Gregory was talking about, which I can't quite remember because English is my kind of third language, but that space-time had to come into play in order to disprove ether. And they had to kind of articulate it in a different way, mathematically and in rhetoric. And that's why Einstein is always very spiritual. A lot of spiritual people start quoting Einstein, you know, E equals mc squared. Energy is inside the mass. The stone is energy, but it's still just, you know, just very low energy, you know. So the dilemma that we're talking about right now is that we are going into metaphysics when we're talking about physics. And metaphysics is not physics. It's another field of philosophy.
But we have solved this problem today thanks to Gregory. We have concluded that the words space-time could be replaced with the word ether. Greg was not able to produce any reason, any qualitative difference between the concept of ether and the substrata described by space-time. So we agreed and shook hands that we can just replace the word with a different word and everything else stays the same. So there's no problem. We solve it. It's relativity.
Now that
so basically you're just changing relativity to ether.
Yes, without changing the characteristics of space-time. He didn't propose any description that would contradict the description provided by Einstein. Everything he said could be interpreted as the Einsteinian description of space-time, and it was only an argument about the label being used. He didn't say ether behaves in certain ways that disagree with Einstein's field equations. He didn't.
You are projecting a lot.
Okay, so it's basically the same.
You are
just
projecting
two different
so
names.
much right now because he asked you for a direct quote where they were describing ether, and they were not describing ether.
They were
describing it as space, time, and relativity.
Yes. And we're fixing that problem. We're building on top of other theories, and we're bringing Gregory as the deep thinker that he is, and we're taking Minkowski, Einstein, Gregory, and we're creating net new theory. It so happens that it's mathematically exactly the same as Einstein. We're just going to go into Google Docs and do a find replace on space-time and swap it to the word ether.
So now you only have this issue in your hands right now. You have to prove to me that the gun does not move when it shoots the bullet, and the bullet moves.
Why would I prove this? That would contradict the third law of motion.
Scientists cannot prove that, can you?
But how? This is absurd. Any gun that's fired is going to recoil.
Exactly. So if there is
a
cosmic vacuum, you're shooting a gun, what moves?
It will recoil.
Bullet move?
The gun and the bullet. Omnivore explained this to you.
Prove it in an experiment. You can't without appealing to NASA or appealing to an authority.
There are videos not from NASA of people showing guns recoiling in vacuum chambers.
We showed a bunch of them.
Recoiling in vacuum chambers. Okay, that's a new evidence. Show that. Do you have that?
Well, I'm sure we could, if we could improve that video. I'm sure that rig that the gun is attached to is soaking up the recoil. It's probably visible. It's probably shaking.
No. There's one from Mythbusters that definitely shows a recoil.
Okay, there you go. Problem solved.
Is it connected to a rig?
Why wouldn't it recoil?
Is it on Earth?
It is
Yes.
on Earth, yes.
Exactly. So my claim still stands. Prove it inside of a cosmic vacuum that contains ether, and you have to.
So, Jelly, you think that leaving the Earth is going to change the third law of motion?
You can't appeal to metaphysics. You can't appeal to love, time, or space, or something inside of your head.
Jilly, kindly shut the fuck up and answer a question. Do you believe that the third law of motion will no longer work?
He left.
Okay, well, I couldn't help myself.
But I just joined. What was the point? That there isn't a recoil in a vacuum?
He thinks that the only way
He's back.
Great.
That guy's insane.
All right, so give me a second. So, Gil, what would change if you move the gun into space, which is a vacuum?
You fucking idiot.
Great, starting off with atomium. That's really good. But what would change
Don't
if
take
we?
this guy seriously.
Oh, and he
He's
left again.
He's insane.
Left again.
Ignore it. So, guys, what do you think? Who felt violated by me using the word ether as a replacement, as a synonym to space-time? I'm sure that's controversial for some of you. So, who felt violated by me employing that tool? Pedagogical.
I personally think it works well.
Yeah, you're just doing algebra, but with words instead of single characters, essentially.
Yeah, I thought it was fine. I mean, especially because it left Gregory. I don't know if Gregory was satisfied by that or not, but it left him without a good objection. If you're saying, yeah, I'll totally. I mean, because he's not prepared to say how or what ether is or how it behaves.
Yes, he has absolutely no description. He has absolutely no description for ether. Therefore, he cannot disagree that it's the same as space-time unless he points to at least one thing that's different. And the only thing he could do is like, oh, that contains the word space and time, and oh, it's a misnomer then, right? But he has no description of ether, no quantitative or otherwise description of it. So that's on him.
Gregory is untalkable too. So he left from here and he went to Geo's. But he's impossible to talk to.
I felt offended, all right? I felt offended, Peter.
Why? Tell me.
Let
me guess, because none of the thinkers were Russian, huh?
Yeah, man. Yeah, you're just a chill, bro. That's why. Because you hurt me feeling.
Did we get an actual definition of what a substratum is? Because he said it's a concretely real omnipresent substratum. The first three words I can sort of make heads and tails of. The rest I have no idea. What is a substratum?
It's something that it's funny because I work on software and we have a thing that I manage that's called that. It's something that's underneath other things. So like basis or.
Look, I know the term, but I was just hoping for him to give some sort of a definite definition or something that could be.
No, you don't get any definitions from Gregory. You just roll with it, right? So what I heard him say was, it's the substrate of all space and material reality, which is exactly what space-time is.
Yeah, which he defined as being material, but he has no way to test or describe any material properties to it.
Yeah. And he said specifically it's not, that's why I asked him that this type of matter is not quantifiable using weight, or I should of course use mass, but you know, I didn't want to have that conversation. So it's not quantifiable using mass or energy or anything like that. I didn't ask him that, but I assume he would have said no. So it is exactly space-time. It's only, but he agreed that it has a shape, which is the only thing that space-time has, as far as I understand, is shape. And
the gravitational field does have energy.
Yes, but I didn't want to introduce the quantum thing. So sticking to general relativity, does space-time have any energy in it? I don't think so, right? The waves, gravitational waves carry energy, but
yes,
that's like produced by something else, right? And just propagates through space-time.
It communicates energy transfer.
Yeah.
It communicates energy transfer in the same sense that the electromagnetic field does. The electromagnetic field is just the place on which these interactions take place. The photon, so in a sense, a photon carries energy, but it has no mass. The graviton, likewise, in the standard model, has no rest mass.
Yeah, so I want to make sure. I always, when I play these games with Gregory or others, I want to make sure I'm not like lying, right? So I didn't think I was lying. I was just stretching the definition of the words to accommodate him.
Yep.
And he had no script for that, like Omnivore said. Like he didn't know, because none of them have any model of ether. They just blab that word out as it means anything. And it doesn't. On its own, it means nothing. He could have said it's a certain fluid that flows in a certain direction. Then I would say, yeah, that's different than space-time. But he didn't say that. So
right, because he couldn't support that.
Yeah, he has no idea.
Yep.
Peter, so I think that was sort of a case study in how to effectively, let's say, converse with Gregory versus how to just get bogged down in minutia. Do you mind summarizing kind of like what your strategy was? Because I think that's important.
Yeah, thank you. That's also why I did that. Well, it was fun for me, but I also wanted to kind of share my method. So method number 1 is answer all of his questions directly and very quickly. So when he says, is vacuum vacuum? Don't nitpick, don't just say yes. And assume, unless he specifies a meaning of a word, which he never does, assume your own. So if he says, like don't play this game where they don't define the meaning and they make you sweat. Make them sweat. So accept all their definitions, and if you think you're misrepresenting something, then ask for clarification. So when I said that I agree that ether is matter, I just asked him, is it quantifiable using weight? When he said no, then in my head I'm mapping, okay, it's matter, but it's different than real matter. So I'm going to just give him the word so I don't fight it. And I'm going to introduce new word, regular matter. And he didn't even oppose that. So I got out of that conundrum very quickly. So basically, you roll with him until you pin him on something logically, and then he has no script for that. All those guys are begging us Globers to give them something to push off of. They're begging for some kind of controversy, use the word mass, use the word gravity, because they have scripts for that. But when you accommodate them, you're essentially denying them the script, and they hate that. So that's my technique.
I see. So that makes sense. So how, like, if let's say the pressure needs a container, kind of thing, like, how do you think that conversation would go?
So my shtick
or
for
how would
that
you deal
is,
with that script?
So typically I say yes, it does. And in the back of my mind, I have two alternatives. One, it requires a containment mechanism, but that's not true. And the other one is, unless they specify the size of the container, I'm going to work with this little stretch that the universe is not infinite. Therefore, the universe is the container. And because all pressure exists within universe, it therefore exists within a container. And we cannot demonstrate anything outside of the universe. So we cannot show gas pressure outside of a container. They never, the good ones, they never make any claims about the size of the container or its nature. So as long as they don't, It fits in my definition.
I see. So it's the same kind of like judo kind of move, using their weight against them in a way.
Aikido, yes. You want to be like Steven Seagal in his early movies.
Yeah, fair enough. Interesting. Because what do they want when they use these scripts? Like they're trying to get you to go into like minutia and scientific detail and stuff, right?
Yes, and they want to grill you. Yes, their entire goal is to grill you on minutia that they are familiar with. For example, define mass. Oh, you don't even know that there's no clear definition of mass. There are 7 different ones, and none of them are true. Yada yada yada. That's all they know.
So let me expand on that. So generally, what they're doing is they see the globe model, for lack of a better term, as being riddled with inconsistencies and logical flaws. And so what they're trying to do is trying to get you into a conversation where you will have to acknowledge the logical flaw. Okay, so you'll say, well, we never see gas pressure. We never see a stable, gas pressure that's different from the surrounding area on Earth without containment. So therefore, how would we have a stable gas pressure? And the answer is we don't have a stable gas pressure. It, attenuates with altitude. But, they believe that they have found a inconsistency that they're going to try to wrestle you around and pin you to. And explaining why we have that inconsistency or why we have this seeming inconsistency, for example, gravity, they believe is a ad hoc patch. So people said, gosh, we can't have a container. Therefore, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that gravity does all of this. And I'm going to say gravity does all of this. So, I don't have to explain. I don't have to have a container. Which is not how it works, but it is truly how they believe it.
So the way I cornered them is I would say 2 things. Yes, there is a container somewhere. 2, so there is no gas pressure outside of the container. I'm not going to grant them that, but I'm not going to say where it is. And then I'm going to say there is a downward acceleration vector on Earth. We see it everywhere. And then I pin them to that. And when I feel like it, I start arguing with them that gas particles fall, that they follow this acceleration vector. Some of them will dismiss that. There's this beautiful experiment that I found in CERN that shows it. So, then it becomes a shitstorm.
That makes sense. Would it work in the container argument I don't know if this, I like your approach, but I'm just wondering, because I was just doing the same thing. Would it work to have basically say, yes, there needs to be a container, but it's not a physical solid container, and kind of lead them down a path where they accept gravity as being container?
So they're not going to do that. And,
yeah.
and the reason why they're not going to do it is because it contradicts their presupposition that gravity is wrong, but also because they just the idea is not to meet you halfway or to understand why it's not a contradiction in terms. It's to try to force a concession that their gnosis is correct.
So I give them the container just to deny them the script. And they're afraid to characterize the container, so they don't bite on that thing once you agree with them. They just want you to disagree. And then I try to argue that there must be something in addition to the container to create the density gradient in the atmosphere. Because if it was just a container, over time, it would equalize, and it doesn't. And then I argue with them that gases fall. I never say gravity. I just say they fall with the same acceleration as everything else that can be shown in a gas chamber, that can be shown, pretty much that's it. That's how you smuggle in gravity. That's how you smuggle in gravity without saying it.
I say gases fall.
Yeah, gases fall. That creates a shitstorm because they think gases are special. They think that, water falls, but vapor doesn't. And, solid oxygen fall, but gaseous oxygen wouldn't. So they have this ridiculous idea that when something transitions into its gas form, then suddenly it stops following the vector, obeying the vector, so to speak. I don't want to say gravity. So, yeah.
Interesting.
I'm back. You
Oh, hey, welcome back.
Shut the fuck up again, or? Peter.
Yeah.
You still have the issue. Can you prove it using the Baconian method?
Probably, but can I ask you a question first?
Sure. I'm in
Is your
good faith,
premise
brother. I did not want
Okay,
to
good.
exchange in any bad faith with you.
Okay, good. Just be quicker to the point, okay? So, question. Is your premise that the third law of motion may not hold 500 kilometers above Earth's surface?
I'm not sure about the question. Why?
Okay, let me repeat. The third law of motion states that when a gun fires, it will recoil. So bullet goes forward, gun moves backward with the same momentum.
Yes.
Is your premise, we clearly show this on Earth by firing a gun, in the open air, and also by firing it in a very low pressure chamber. Is your premise that this would not hold?
But it's still on Earth, brother.
Yes. So is your premise that if we were to elevate 500 kilometers above the surface, then suddenly this law would no longer function?
Yeah. If you go over 14.7 psi, you will see a difference.
Well, no. So we showed you, Omnivore showed you, that we can go well below 14 psi in a special chamber, a low pressure chamber, and the gun recoils.
Exactly.
So you're just not sure if the same will be true if we put the gun 500 kilometers above the surface.
My whole claim is that we cannot do that.
Oh, okay. But is your intuition that if we could go 500 kilometers above the surface, then the gun would not recoil? What would you expect it to do?
Are you asking for my opinion?
Yes. Intuition.
Intuition?
Yeah.
Okay. My intuition is that I do not know how a gun behaves in 500 kilometers above Earth.
And that's not because of the pressure, because we can replicate comparable low pressure on Earth. So it's not because of that. It's because of something else.
It's because of my own belief system. And also that I'm seeing that I'm getting different answers from people that have a different belief system.
Okay. Got it.
Okay.
So
what we're talking
my friend,
about is
no. Let's solve this.
We're talking about opinions. We're talking
Okay,
about
no, we're going to show you something.
Ideas.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
has nothing to do with science, brother.
Good.
Or physics.
Guys, those of you who are familiar with ISS experiments and such, Could you find a YouTube video that shows something recoiling or the third law of motion in action?
Without appealing to authority, brother.
Well, that's not authority. That's just a demonstration that you're asking for.
What's ISS?
The International Space Station.
Okay. Can you prove that that's real?
No, but I can show you demonstrations performed there.
Yeah, I can show you a Star Wars movie that proves me the Force is real.
That's true. But when you ask for a demonstration 500 kilometers above the Earth, you're going to have to accept certain evidence presented by people who are capable of going there.
Freemasons that are working for NASA.
Okay, then you can dismiss that evidence, but then your path forward is currently closed because regular people currently cannot travel 500 kilometers. No, I'm just giving you the best we have. If I had my own demonstration, I would immediately share it with you. But I don't.
I put a video in the chat.
To be honest right now.
Okay, Julie, I am honest. Dismiss. Okay, so Omnivore. Okay, Omnivore showed you a demonstration. Please immediately dismiss it because it wasn't done by me or him. That's the best we have right now, brother. So you will have to wait until further time yet to be determined when people like you and I will be able to experiment.
Because Zeus is real according to the old.
Yeah, you may die never knowing. You may die never knowing. You have to be at peace with that possibility.
That you are a scientist appealing to metaphysics.
Yes, I am.
Understand that, bro.
Yes, and you have to understand that for the time being, your plea for a demonstration will go unfulfilled because we are not able to meet your standard for evidence. And I apologize on behalf of humankind, but hopefully within 30 years or so, maybe this will change, but you might die not knowing. I apologize for that as well.
My claim still holds, and you have no founding. Yes. You're falling in your hypothetical cosmic vacuum right now.
Yes.
Because you have no barrier or no footing in anything.
I have a question about. I have a question. I have a question.
As a religious person right now.
So, Gilly, I have a question for you, Gilly. I'm curious. Do you have a reason to think that the laws of physics as we observe them would change with higher altitude?
100%. There is some change that happens when I am upside of a mountain or if I am down on Earth. There's a huge change in atmosphere, the vapor, the intensity of gases around me. But I don't know what happens when I'm 500 kilometers above the Earth. I've never been there.
I have a follow-up question.
Anything around that without appealing to my belief system.
So I have a follow-up question to that. So you say that when I go up a mountain, the air gets thinner, right? That's what you're referring to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going up a mountain, the air is getting thinner, and we can extrapolate even above the mountain. We can extrapolate how much thinner it gets to the point where we can use the thinness of the air as a altimeter for airplanes, right? So it gets thinner.
How far are you up then?
Well, I can as high as airplanes fly, right? 5 miles up,
60,000 feet.
But
yeah,
I mean,
but 5 miles is not 500 kilometers, is it?
No, it's not. It's not. But the point is that it's very
Can we
stable.
keep on point then, instead of stepping above and changing the values. Right?
I'm making a point. Let me
bring it on.
Finish it up. So as this gradient, this attenuation of atmosphere is extremely constant, you would need to have I posit that you would need a reason to think it changes rather than just hypothesizing that I believe it changes. You would need to say, well, it changes because X, whatever X is. And I don't know what X would be, but
impenetrable barrier that I cannot go across. That could be the X.
Okay, but is there evidence of an impenetrable barrier?
System, brother. I can't prove that.
Okay, so you can't prove there's an invisible barrier. You just believe there is.
Exactly. In the same way as you believe that there's a hypothetical cosmic vacuum that takes over when the air pressure goes low enough.
Well, not exactly. No, there's a difference. So
Why?
you believe because you believe that there is a barrier that we don't detect, that we cannot detect. I believe that, in the absence of something that we can detect, the atmosphere is just going to get thinner and thinner and thinner. And eventually it will become what you're calling cosmic vacuum.
Exactly. We're always talking about hypotheticals here, bro.
No,
and you
no.
realize that when you're speaking, right?
No,
It's
no.
not hypothetical.
So
It's not a hypothetical. Okay.
The difference between that and a
what is the
hypothetical
proof
is this. I'm explaining to you. So a hypothetical would be I hypothesize that if I go high enough up, I will eventually I will see nothing but a bright blue reality. That would be a hypothetical. Like I hypothesize I might see that. Or if I go
Or
high,
a barrier.
I'll find
Or a
God.
cosmic vacuum.
No.
Oh, okay.
The cosmic vacuum has
Prove it
something that
then.
those other things. No, it's not. I don't have to prove it. Yeah, that's not the
Yeah,
case.
you need evidence.
No,
you need something to prove your hypothesis, sir.
So I have bad news for you. So let me explain. Let me explain what the bad news is.
Science is an opinion. Okay, let's go.
Nope,
Carry on.
that's not the bad news. The bad news is this: if my position is based on evidence that we have of an event that is continuing to happen, and there is no evident reason for that event to change, to stop happening, then it's not hypothetical to conclude that it continues to happen. That is simply a logical position.
Based on your belief.
No, it's not based on our belief. We know the attenuation of atmosphere happens. Right? We
Air
know
pressure
that.
goes lower as you go up.
Yes, and we know it continues to go lower, even above where we can walk to. It goes lower above airplanes. It goes lower, higher than that with high level, air balloons. It just keeps getting lower. So, without a logical reason to think that would stop happening, we would need to think of we would need to know why, why wouldn't it just keep going? There's no reason to think it would stop. So eventually we would get to what you are categorizing as cosmic vacuum. The fact that you believe there is something that stops it would be a logical reason to believe it stops if we had any evidence of that something that you believe in.
Yeah, but you're appealing to an authority that believes the same thing you believe.
No, I'm not appealing to an authority. How do you?
Yeah.
How do you get?
You just
that?
quoted what ISS, and I asked you what that
No,
was.
I'm not talking about the ISS. I'm not talking about the ISS.
What's above 500 kilometers above Earth?
Well, we don't. I mean, let's say we don't know. We have no idea.
Yeah, that's the fucking
So
issue,
you
bro.
you gotta listen. You gotta listen. You gotta listen.
No, Omni. You can logically prove your belief system to anyone around the world, but you cannot make me believe what you believe without actually having empirical physical evidence about it.
Well,
and that's the Baconian fucking method.
Well, I don't have
the Copernican hypothesis theory.
No, okay. So I'm not saying that it will.
Are you aware of that?
You.
Are you aware that Francis Bacon, was against the Copernican theory, hypothesis theory? How he created an hypothesis.
No.
Are you aware of that? I mean,
no, I'm not, and it doesn't matter.
No, it really matters because Copernican said that a hypothesis is enough to be justified to prove my model if I can look at a thing up there in the sky and I can say it's going to go in this direction and it's going to be there in 2 days. Therefore, my model is correct. That was enough justification to prove the model to him. And Bacon was so against that. He was like, you can't prove anything up in the sky without proving spontaneous rotation on Earth in order to realize the diurnal motions of the heavenly bodies. Then he made everything this materialistic fucking science that created atheism, that created, you can't prove God without having physical science. You see the dilemma, brother. It's about belief and metaphysics.
Not,
Ether is metaphysics, bro.
None of this is true. All right.
I thought I'd never say that before, but I miss Gregory.
I'm speaking truth, brother. I'm spitting fucking
not,
fast.
No, well, you're okay, but you're not actually. Okay.
In your opinion, add that to your dialogue, bro.
Let me. I'll try to explain it one more time, and then we can agree to disagree.
You are not God. You cannot apply your truth into a conversation without proving.
If we see a phenomenon happening, okay, consistently happening, very consistently happening, and we see no reason for it for it to stop happening, then it is logical to conclude that it will keep happening. For example, I observe the sunrise every day. I see no reason the sun should not rise every day. Therefore, it is logical for me to conclude. Now, it is, inference based, but
yet you understand perspective, right? You as a human being, omnivore, in this discussion for years, you have to understand that there's a perspective going on. Something that is going towards the horizon is going to be infinitely smaller until it disappears.
Okay, I'm just talking about the sun rising, the experience of the sun rising.
Yeah, we're talking about the same thing. The sun could be rising, or it could be going away from you.
No.
Yeah, that's perspective versus your
two different. So two different effects that are not compatible.
It doesn't matter. So you're totally missing this, my guy. So I'm not talking about what. Okay, let's say the sun is going away from me, right? Okay, let's say that's what's happening. Sure. Every day, every time when I get up in the morning, I see the sun come closer to me, and I get warm, and I go out and jog, and then I see the sun get further away from me. I see that every day of my life. I don't have a logical reason. There's no reason that I can point to. There's nothing that I can, point to and say, this is why it will stop happening. All right. Therefore, it is logical for me to conclude on the basis of inference that it will continue to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. In the same way as if you were working as a soldier in the Second World War, and you would see airplanes coming over the horizon, and they would slowly come towards you.
You're missing the point.
Would go over the horizon the other way. But they're going away, and they're becoming smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until you don't see them anymore.
This has nothing to do with perspective.
This is the same thing. We're looking at something that is the sun, or an airplane, or a helicopter.
Gilly, I'm going to try another thing because you're missing it. If I go to the beach, every day I go to the beach, I see waves crash into the shore. If I do not have a reason to think waves will stop crashing into the shore, then it is reasonable for me to conclude, logical for me to conclude, that every future day that I go to the beach, I will see waves. They might be very small waves if it's a very calm day, but I will see waves crashing into the shore. Does that help you understand better?
Yeah, but you're using a point that I can obviously show that sometimes the ocean is still. And I've actually observed that in my life.
There's still very small waves. There's always
it's still water. Just still. I'm in a fjord in Norway, and I'm looking at the ocean. It's completely still. I can take my boat on top of that ocean, and suddenly it becomes windy and wavy because it happens to be 4 o'clock. And the guy next to me knows that at 4 o'clock, always in this fjord, the waves will start to come. And he will warn me, and he will say, hey, you shouldn't take your boat out now because it's 10 minutes to 4, and every 4 o'clock it starts moving.
You're kind of getting it. Now you're getting closer. Getting closer to
that is
getting closer
something
to
that
it.
I can easily discredit, bro.
No, it's not something that you can easily discredit. The
In
point
what way?
is,
How did I not discredit it right now?
because we all know that water does not literally stop moving just because it's a calm day. You know that as well. You're just saying, well, that's your example, and you weren't. You didn't.
But it
specify.
becomes a calm. There's
Yes.
calm water, and
If
then
every-
there's rough water. You're speaking to a fucking sailor, brother.
Yes,
I was on the ocean, and I know waves.
Gilly,
and I know how
Gilly.
a wave can become
Grab-
a huge block above me, and I'm
grab both of
going
your
up
neurons.
above it, and then I can
Grab
go into the pier,
So
and I
you're
can see it
missing-
still.
Okay. Grab both of your neurons and try to follow me.
Both
If
of
I
my
see-
neurons.
Yes, both of your neurons, one neuron in each hand.
Yeah,
First-
everybody listening to me right now can understand that I'm more intelligent than you right now.
Good joke,
Okay.
mate.
Silly little believer.
Okay. So when I see a consistent event, be it the motion of water on the beach, be it clouds in the sky, right? Be it, I'm trying to think of something that happens every day. Every day I get up breathing oxygen, I breathe air. I don't see any reason why I will run out of air. Therefore, it is logical for me to continue. I will keep being able to breathe air until I see such a reason to believe I would not. For example, if I'm trapped in a airtight room, then I would have a reason to think I'm going to run out of air.
Yeah, or being choked by a 6'4" Icelander.
Okay. So we agree. So in this
Exactly.
case, I see the atmosphere getting thinner and thinner. I see no reason it would stop getting thinner and thinner. Therefore, it is reasonable for me to conclude that it will continue to get thinner and thinner.
What authority do you appeal to that proves to you that there's not a barrier up there?
What authority do I appeal to? What do you mean? So I can't
What
detect the barrier.
authority do you
I don't.
proxy your intelligence towards? You can create an intelligent proxy of what happens 500 kilometers above Earth.
No.
You as a believer, who do you believe? Me
okay,
talking to you right now that's saying that you have a belief system, or the person who is telling you that your belief system is true?
So I'll try again. I will try again. So what happens is in this case is I am hold on a second. I'm trying to fix something here. So
it's no problem on me.
Yeah, I don't
That's all
believe
the
so.
time in the
So
world.
I do not. I do not believe that there is no barrier.
Yeah,
That's
let's
not
not
the
talk
issue.
about belief systems. Let's talk
Well-
about physics and understanding of reality.
Well, no, because this is important. So I believe that I cannot detect a barrier. I'm not aware of a barrier.
How can you prove?
How can I prove that I do not detect a barrier?
Yeah, you have to prove your belief, right?
What do you mean?
You have to prove that what you believe is
Can
true.
he prove the negative? Can he
No.
prove the negative that there's no
Well,
barrier somewhere?
Wait a minute.
Not
If
there,
if I don't
Maybe it's very
detect,
far away.
if I can't detect
Very
a barrier,
far away. Yeah, that's
If I
exactly
can't
what
be-
on my point.
if I can't detect a barrier, why would I believe what is there?
Exactly.
So will it help if we just agree that there could be a barrier, but we cannot detect one anywhere we look in the sky? And we've tried looking close, we've tried looking far, and we haven't observed a barrier yet. Would that satisfy you? And would you move on to the next point?
Yeah. If you stop
Okay.
talking about yourself in plural.
Okay, the barrier could be somewhere. We have not observed any barrier yet, no matter how hard we looked. Next point, please.
Yeah. You're still talking about yourself in plural, meaning that you are inside of a group think, a belief
Yes,
system.
I speak on behalf of
I don't
humanity.
speak as we, do I?
You
I'm
don't, but I
speaking as
do.
Gisli Peter. You can call me Gilly Pong. I usually use that. I am a individual.
It's a silly name for a
and you
grown-up
talk to
adult
me as
human
if you
being.
are a royal we. But you don't.
Well,
then you're appealing to some we.
I speak on behalf of humanity.
Authority over your beliefs. Don't you understand
No
that?
humans.
Sir?
No humans. Let me rephrase. No human beings have yet observed a boundary. Next point, please.
According to who?
According to all the human beings that have looked for a boundary.
Well, that's not true.
Do you have data?
Do you have an observation of a boundary that you could share with us so we can learn?
I have multiple. Many
Please,
people
share
have
one.
talked about the firmament.
Please share with us.
Okay,
We're really
share
interested in the
one.
barrier.
Share the best.
Have you ever heard about the firmament?
Yes, please share your best observation of the barrier.
There's no observation of the barrier because
So you agree with
say
me?
that you have many observations of the
So you
barrier.
agree
my
with
belief.
me?
I'm
Okay,
not
it's your
saying
belief.
that
Good.
I can prove it because it's
Good.
my belief, and therefore I'm proving to you that what you try to oppose to that is your belief.
No, but we're in agreement actually.
Get it?
You, myself, and Omni are in agreement that no human being has yet observed a barrier. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
What's your next point? Take us to the next point.
My next point.
Yeah.
Just educate yourself about your belief system and realize that there are certain peoples in the world that want you to believe this.
Okay. Okay, fair enough.
In order to conquer and divide.
Good.
This
And
is
while we're
creating
doing that,
a fight in humanity instead of everyone working together, realizing we are in a perfect ecosystem that works well.
But the good news is that we
to
are
the ground and
united.
grow.
We are united as humanity in this simple fact that none of us have ever observed a barrier. So you are united, I am united, Omni is united, everybody's united. You have
I've
not
seen
observed the
Elon
barrier.
rockets up into the barrier and it creates a field that shows like it's a
So you have observed a barrier. So you have
I have
observed.
observed it.
Could you share with us? Could you share with us an observation, the best one you have, observation of the barrier, please?
I'll try to find it.
Okay, thank you.
You can carry on your conversation. I'll post it in the chat.
Let's just hope it's not the SpaceX, exhaust expanding.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what it'll be.
Because if that's the one, then sorry, mate. I've got bad news for you.
No, he will. It
We
will
all
be
know
just
what it's going to be.
We all know what it's going to be, so you can not waste your time trying to post it because it's not an observation of a barrier.
Well, let him embarrass himself, okay? Otherwise, he's just going to bloviate for another hour.
Be intellectually
Let
dishonest
me give
forever.
another guess. What is it going to be?
Exiting this conversation. I cannot have an honest, beautiful conversation with
Okay,
you.
I'm sorry for trying not to waste your time.
Okay.
I'm very
Thank
sorry
you
for
so
that.
much for the time, bros. It's been awesome. Keep shooting your guns without throwing it up in the air. Fucking idiots.
I wouldn't recommend you throw your gun up in the air.
What the?
Yeah.
Did I said something?
Yeah, he was a little bit triggered.
So what happened was the proof he was going to get was the SpaceX launch, and
He thought we hadn't seen it
Yeah,
yet.
exactly.
And
Didn't
he realized the jig was up.
Didn't they have a booster blow up a few years ago, or was it less than a year ago?
They had the booster blow up 1 week ago. A booster that fly 20 times and he didn't made it.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, that's
there was
because
the
of
one
how they work.
There was the one with the Starship that blew up during its launch, and there was the whole flood of Twitter conversation that they hit a dome, even though it was like a few miles up.
But the Starship one, the first integrated flight test was already falling down when it blew up.
It is called the rapid disassembly. But
Yeah,
only
yeah.
on the third try, it looked that it hit some kind of firmament, and this is what they like, not the other ones.
It's a rapid unscheduled disassembly. Yeah.
I don't think it's ever looked like it hit something.
No.
Tell that to Flower first.
Yeah, it did on the third one because there was a huge mix-up of gases. You had some more colors inside the video, and it's kind of looks like.
Huh?
I doubt it.
IFT3?
Oh, yeah. I'm sure they took it and they faked something. Like, and then maybe not the original video, but in the IFT3, for sure.
I'm looking at it now. IFT3 separated. No, in IFT3, the booster stage actually landed. It landed in the ocean, but
No,
it
not the
landed.
boost.
Oh,
Yeah, that was planned. It was supposed to land in the ocean.
Yes.
So I'm confusing maybe, but there is one that is going all over TikTok, and
Yes.
flat earthers are very proud of it.
I mean, there's IFT1, which lost control, but it was already falling down to the Earth when it fell apart. Then there was IFT2. Hang on, how did IFT2 fail? Oh, yeah, no, IFT2 blew up. Yeah, IFT2 blew up. The booster stage after separation, it flipped over, tried to relight to control the trajectory for a deorbit, and then the booster blew apart because many of its engines failed. But the core stage continued on.
By the way, in the end, Polaris Dawn was launched or it was scrubbed for the fourth time. I didn't check.
It's kind of disheartening, though, that a sailor is a flat earther. Like, wow, that requires a lot of derp.
I don't think he's really. I don't think he's much of a sailor.
Oh, okay, so he's like a fisher more.
Yeah.
He's LARPing as an old wise man.
Yep.
Okay, he's gonna tell you stories. He knows everything about everything, I'm sure.
I'm sure he's very familiar with his fjord.
He pines for it.
Because then I would have asked him about how to navigate between two distant ports and how to calculate the distances between them.
Please don't. No sailor would ever say that there's an ocean with no waves or a fjord with no waves.
I mean,
how did you break Gregory, by the way? I wasn't here when he ran away. How it ended?
The secret to breaking Gregory is to agree with him.
No, this is I heard, and he was surprised, and it was amazing. But he was like at least 20 minutes after that.
Yeah, the breaking was the law of identity. That was your logic.
Yeah, I mean, all Peter does is just run with the script and just point out that he can't define anything, and then trigger him by making his the terms that he's bringing up without defining into something he doesn't like space time.
not even really a trick, just
Yeah.
I liked how you used the German word for it first. That
Yeah, that
really
was good.
confused them.
That always they don't know what to do with that one.
That's funny. So Neo is gonna come by. He decided to come back.
Who is that?
AIEX.
Oh, okay.
Didn't you
DTM.
ban him, or did you just kick him?
No, I timed him out after he was being
Gotcha.
weird and creepy, and then he left in protest, and then he asked me for a link to come back, which I gave him. So I guess he'll be here soon.
By the way, talking to Gregory is really weird because he's trying to use a very sophisticated language, but instead he just mixes words that don't really make sense together.
Yeah.
There's a YouTube channel, SpaceX Live, and it says Polaris Dawn is a T-minus 10 minutes. Is it actually still launching, or has been scrubbed now?
No, it was scrubbed, and there are many YouTube channels that always fake Elon talking and
Gotcha.
stuff like that. It's crypto scams. But
Gotcha. Yeah.
I do want to mention, I found what I meant by Fernaman, and it is inside IFT2 launch.
Yeah, that's what I said.
In the middle.
Yeah, IFT2, the booster blew up after separation.
Yeah, and the Big Bang, and some of the guys edit it in color and stuff, so it looks like it hit a wall.
Sure, yeah. And IFT3 though, soft landed.
So Tor, can I ask you? You know about SpaceX, right?
A little bit, yeah.
Can I ask you a question? I posted in the chat at 41 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I saw this yesterday. I thought we were all going to die because I thought it was a ballistic missile. If you zoom in, can you see?
Yeah.
That's a Starlink train, right?
Starlink trails usually are straight lines. They're not like this kind of wobbly, but I don't know if it's focused properly or what it is.
It's my photo because I was running. So I was sitting in my car and I saw this streak of lights move through the sky at very high speed.
Oh no,
And
that's probably just a meteoroid. No, Starlink satellites
No,
look like
no,
coins.
no.
You know what you can do?
Dude, let me ask a question.
I'm trying to help you.
Well, but let me describe the observation first. So it went on like for a long time. It wasn't just a quick flash. It took a couple of minutes for it to cross the sky, I guess. And
okay, so it's not a.
Yeah.
So wasn't a streak? It was a point.
No, it was. It looks shitty on the photo because there was a lot of light pollution where I was. But it was literally those dots. It looks if you look up a nice photo of Starlink, it looked exactly like that. Just I didn't capture it with my phone.
So to clarify, it was a series of points.
Yep.
Then it might have been Starlink just after release from a booster. I don't know when the last launch was, but if it was.
Look at the chat now. It kind of looked like that, just not with my naked eye. It didn't look that pretty, but it's equivalent to that.
Yeah, that might have been a fresh launch before they disperse. Yeah.
So that's when you see them after they launch and before they like get to their position.
Yeah, they generally have to spread out slowly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's classic. That is the classic Starlink train of which you've seen many examples of.
But you can go to a website. You can go to a website that is called Starlink Location, and you can actually see where it is, when is it going over your location, and what time exactly, to be sure. And
yeah, they're so common now. They're so common now. Nobody even cares much. Yeah, he saw it. It looks like that. Yeah, it's a Starlink train. They're almost common.
Yeah, but you can easily make sure because they post everything. They post exactly the time, the location where you will see it when you had seen it.
Yeah,
And it's
that's
only
very
the
good.
new
Yeah,
ones, yeah?
that is true. Yeah,
All
after
of
every
them.
launch,
All of them.
after every launch, you'll see something just like that.
Yeah, each rocket carries between like 20 to 40 of these satellites individually. It releases them on a little train, and then they are programmed with their ion thrusters and generally just the orbital geometry where they're going to slowly spread apart into the target constellation. So they're going to.
I saw a Starlink train the other day, but they were separated by 10 seconds. But there were still 50 of them.
Yep. So you are in Poland, right, Peter?
No, I'm in Seattle. This was over Puget Sound.
Okay.
Well, they had that Vandenberg launch was, I think, one of the most recent, and Vandenberg launches are polar, that high 87-degree inclination, I think.
I just put the link in the chat. You can just put your place and to check one day before and to know for sure.
Yeah, the other question would be, you saw that train, the chain of satellites, was it oriented mostly north-south, or was it oriented northwest-southeast?
I was looking west, and it was going east, northeast. I would think.
Yeah, it's mostly from north to east, the movement.
And you said it was August 31?
Yeah. And I was in this town. It's called Mukilteo. Mukilteo. I don't know how to say it, even though I live
Seattle, close enough. It's not going to be,
Yeah.
not going to matter, plus or minus a few miles. So fortunately, this doesn't go too far back. It mostly looks forward. Now the Starlink finder. Fuck, why does everybody keep showing forward in time for the next launch? I want to see the previous one, you dumbasses.
I think heavens above will. You can be very specific.
Just gotta go to Wikipedia apparently, because everybody else is organized like trash. So there's apparently two launches one from Canaveral and one from Vandenberg. So you probably saw the one from Vandenberg, August 31, 8:48 morning. And yeah, it launched Starlink mission 9-5.
And this was around 9:20 p.m. Pacific.
Yeah, matches.
Is it possible? Because on the photo, it kind of looks like two of them, kind of parallel. Is that a thing?
Yes, it launches from two sides. I think it's like a cartridge dispenser with a rack of two sets of satellites, I think.
Yeah, that's what it looked like. Not a single line, but two lines.
Yeah, 21 satellites deployed, I think. It says on here.
Nice.
I put in the general chat all the satellites. Wow, there are so many.
Oh wow. So how does it work? Is you just need a direct link to one of the satellites to get the internet?
Yes.
Okay. So why are so many more needed than GPS?
Because any one satellite will be only overhead for like 3-4 minutes, and then it hands you off to the next one, and then the next one, and the next one.
They're very low altitudes, so they're something like 500 kilometers.
Yeah, with that 90-minute orbit. Their 90-minute orbit, it'll go across your whole sky, just like you've ever seen the ISS. It'll pass over you only got like 3-4 minutes to even see it at max. So yeah, any one Starlink satellite will be just that, but you'll probably be in reception of multiple to begin with, and they keep handing off.
Yeah, the problem is basically at such a low altitude, their visibility of the Earth is very limited. They don't have much of a visible horizon where they're going to be able to service too many targets, and that's actually kind of on purpose because they want to have a high density, or rather, they don't want to have too many subscribers linked up to a single satellite, therefore giving better throughput. But the problem then becomes you need a lot of them.
Yeah, the big deal is in that proximity you have such a low delay.
Yes, that too. That was one of the motivating factors is to have low transmission delay, but then you need a truckload of them.
I think over 10,000 is a truckload, isn't it?
Yeah, it's quite, and it's actually become quite a problem. Well, for sure for amateur astronomers, and it's starting to, I think, become a problem for professional astronomers as well. And I'm not entirely sure what we're going to do when low Earth orbit becomes just a dumping ground for Starlink satellites. Theoretically, they should deorbit them at the end of their life, but I don't know if they've ever deorbited any yet.
Reminds me a little bit of the industrial era when we used to pollute rivers.
Yep.
Without thinking about it.
Yep.
Yep. I got to figure, how are they going to schedule a manned launch to find a window?
Yeah.
Kessler syndrome, here we come.
Yeah.
You might need a special shield on your vehicle to just brush those things aside.
Ain't no shield that's going to be able to take a 16 kilometer per second impact. That's going to pulverize you if you hit the Starlink satellite head on or even side on.
Then
even if it's a metal fragment from some other impact.
It's going to be a problem. We're going to need a space vacuum.
Yep.
Yeah.
They've been talking about those too.
It's so unfortunate that vacuums don't suck.
I know, right?
No, they've been talking about like drag nets and harpoons where they can grab shit.
That or literally just using like puffs of gas to try and deorbit targets in more of a dispersed manner to where you'd be able to capture small debris. Because if you just shoot something with a harpoon, chances are you're going to break off shit, and that's actually going to make it worse.
Well, they had some sort of grappling method. Yeah, they were experimenting with other things.
I mean, theoretically.
Go ahead.
Theoretically, Starlink satellites are supposed to be at enough of a low Earth orbit to where they're going to deorbit on their own just by orbital drag or atmospheric drag. But the problem is that depending on conditions and the exact orbital parameters and shape of the spacecraft, that can take decades.
Isn't this why they opened the Space Force? So they
no. I mean,
so they can clean their shit on the way? No.
Hopefully not, but technically, I think SpaceX are obligated to leave enough fuel on the satellite to deorbit it at the end of its life, so it doesn't literally just persist and deorbit on its own unpredictably. I don't think I'm not sure if they've ever retired and deorbited any satellites yet. Maybe they have.
Yeah, they have. But the problem is if they go incommunicado to where they're just, a dead satellite, particularly the ones at somewhat higher orbits, like the ones at 400 miles, right? If they turn dead, they're lifelong.
Yeah, they're gonna stay there for quite a while, and then we gotta transfer. Yeah, all the ones that essentially break or fail.
Vanguard's still up there.
Yeah, And some crazy Russian or Soviet nuclear reactor powered spy satellite isn't there as well?
Oh yeah, there was that one that came down in fucking Canada, right? Like spewed its reactor debris everywhere.
Oops.
I don't know if you heard of that one.
Yeah, why don't we just send up nuclear saltwater rockets everywhere? That'd be fun.
I remember in the 90s, there was this Soviet astronaut that got stranded in space after the Soviet Union fell apart, and they were all arguing who should pay for bringing him home. I wonder if he's still up there.
Wait. Soviet what?
There was a Soviet, when the Soviet Union fell apart.
Yeah.
And stopped being the
Sure.
What's the word they use in their anthem? The indestructible Soviet Union. So when it self-destructed, they there was a guy in space on some kind of long-term mission, and they were arguing who was going to bring him home because nobody wanted to pay for it. So I'm wondering if they brought him home or if he's still there.
No, they did bring him home. They did finally get around to fetching him. But yeah, he was up there for like a year extra, and that was on the Russian space station, not the ISS, of course.
Well, the ISS originated from a Russian space station, so.
No, it was on it. It was on what is the Russian space? With
Mir, you mean?
Yeah.
And they had a bunch of space stations actually before that, so it's not like
Well, yeah, it's one of the Russian space stations. Yes, there was a problem with the Cosmodrome. Going into it not having the resource to launch another rocket for some time, and yeah, there was big discussion, and there's no capacity for a U.S. rescue or Chinese rescue, and so it was up to either Russia rescues them or he doesn't get rescued.
Yeah, if I remember, I was a kid back then, but if I remember, they were arguing with Kazakhstan, which became an independent country, because the Cosmodrome is in Kazakhstan. So I think they were saying like, hey, you guys launched him, so bring him back home.
For sure, yeah.
Anyways, I was going to ask you guys a question. How common do you run into this funny misconception with flat earthers that vacuum equals no gravity? Meaning that if I put something in a vacuum chamber, then it should levitate.
I've heard it
Have you guys
mentioned.
ever run it?
I've heard it mentioned once, but I don't think it's ever been a flat earther ever really thought it through.
Yeah, I think I've ran into it maybe 2 or 3 times, but not recently. So maybe we're making some progress.
It's a Witsit thing with the
Oh, really?
geodetic planes. Yes. He says he can manipulate electrostatics and make things float.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's known, but he's not
yeah,
claiming.
but that's
He's not talking
different.
about vacuum.
Yeah, it was more like a genuine misconception that vacuum equals microgravity.
Yeah, so some flat earthers take it a step further.
Perhaps, yeah. I mean, a lot of sort of common folk that do not know about orbital mechanics at all think that the ISS is floating in space because it's high up, not because it's going fast sideways. So folks think that rockets go up and therefore once they reach a certain altitude, gravity switch off.
Disappears.
And, yeah, and you can just float around.
Yeah.
Actually, I think I never heard a flat earther that understand the word vacuum at all.
Well, there are those that have more offensive misunderstandings about it, yeah.
Gregory is
by
not
the
one
way,
of them anymore.
I think Gregory knows everything, and he is here just to troll. He enjoys
No.
it so much.
No.
I heard him talking in other places. You would be amazed. He knows stuff. He's just pretending and taking shape of the people.
No,
He's not
never.
like.
He knows nothing about physics, and I think he prides himself in. My take is completely different. He knows nothing about physics, and he actually prides himself in being able to debunk physics using pure logic, no understanding needed. It's all to him. It's all a scam. It's all a confusing framework, and simple modus schmollens can destroy it all. He sometimes you mention a basic law like classical mechanics, and you can tell it's the first time he ever heard it. So he doesn't know anything.
So maybe I'm confusing and I met the other guy, but it was clearly that they come unprepared and they expect for you to respect them. But how can you respect them if they didn't do anything to actually check what they are talking about, which makes it, I don't know, kind of useless.
Well, there's always a way. You can just adjust your style and say, okay, I have a person here who speaks a different language, and they are not eager to understand. Quite to the contrary, their whole game is to resist. And then you play that game.
It was hammered.
Sergei Krikalev was stranded aboard the Russian Mir after the dissolution of the Soviet Union, as the country had sent him into space, no longer existed. His return was delayed, and he stayed in space for 311 days, twice as long as the scheduled mission. So, yes, stranded, and there have been, other astronauts have gone, 300 and some days. As long as he had food and supplies, I mean, it was kind of a quandary, but
extended vacation.
How long was Kelly up? Kelly was up for almost a year, right?
There have been missions that have taken over a year, yeah.
Plus, for him, it was either that or the Gulag. So,
the one thing that would surprise me that I didn't realize, or just come to learn, that the two astronauts on board the Starliner, they have logged over a year on board ISS. So they were well familiar with having to deal with an additional 8-month extension.
So the longest one is Valery Polyakov in 1994. He was up there for 437.7 days on Mir. And in fact, our 311-day guy was barely in the top 10. Scott Kelly, 340 days. Mark T. Van de Hey, 355.2 days. Yeah. Over a year is not that unusual. It's definitely nothing record-breaking.
It was just that uncertainty when they said, we're never coming home. It's like, we're working on it. Just hang tight.
As long as he has provisions, and he's not running into reserves, then I think it generally is a non-issue. It was going to be resolved anyway, one way or the other. They could have even just asked the U.S. to come and get him. That would have also worked. Obviously, massive political faux pas. But if the alternative was to have a a cosmonaut literally just die of starvation in space. That would have been definitely worse.
It's funny how you're thinking like in a very Western way. There's another option. We declare his successful return, but he is still orbiting the Earth.
Maybe, I don't know. I think that would have been a little bit difficult to conceal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would have been quite difficult to conceal. Because I mean, he would have been up there for quite a while, so obviously people would have tried to talk to him, and if they couldn't get a hold of him, then that would have been a little bit suspicious.
And they continued to use the space station, so
that too.
Yeah, it didn't end everything. So yeah, he was the word stranding only applies because they didn't have a return date and they had to sort it out.
Yeah, stranded in the way that you'd be stranded, at a vacation spot because the weather is bad and the airplane can't get in, so to speak. Anyway,
Stranded, I got a driving vacation and I lost the transmission and now my car is in the shop for a week. But they can't get the parts, so I'm in the shop for 3 weeks or maybe 4 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I was really enjoying today's derp from Hammer, where he said, if I remember right, that nobody uses math in real life, only nerds and university students or something like that. That was really enjoyable. You should try that. You should try that argument in the grocery store next time. I don't use math.
Hammer
Very
is
interesting,
hilarious.
sir. Yeah, very interesting, sir. But it's still $52.32.
Yeah. That's it's way worse than that. It's way worse than that. How are you going to generate CGI without math? How are you going to do? Yeah, it's like how can you run CNC, a 3D design without spherical trig and math? Come on.
It's stupid on the face of it because everybody uses math all the time. Anytime you're trying to plan your schedule or something like that, you have to count time, hours and minutes. How long is it going to take to get there? When am I going to be expected to be there? How much time am I going to have? That kind of stuff.
Okay, let's separate math from arithmetic.
Well, you can't. It's one is in the other.
Well, when I hear mathematics, I'm not hearing add, subtract, multiply, divide.
Okay. I am.
Because well, okay, in mathematics that happens, but in arithmetic, that's your whole function list.
I mean, generally, if you're in any kind of commercial space, you're gonna have to work with numbers and quantities of stuff, and that will require.
Right. Yeah. It takes more. Some people can just be making change from $1 with a calculator, and other people can be deciding, how many kilowatts they're going to be losing if they leave the air conditioner on, when nobody's home.
Yeah, that too. Anytime you deal with finances, that kind of stuff, limited resources, you're going to have to make sure that you're analyzing a problem mathematically.
Why is one interest rate better than the other?
Yep. And even if you have a banker who's going to try and explain it to you using simple language, that banker definitely had to understand how it works.
Yeah. How much overtime do I have to work to get that extra day of vacation?
Yep.
Oh yeah, without hesitation. But I mean, when they say math, okay, let's just cut that from arithmetic, right? Only used by nerds. However, it is still used by those that brought forth all the technology he's surrounded with and uses and depends on.
Yeah, the very computer which he's typing the stupid derp on is completely dependent upon math, from like the most fundamental physics aspects all the way up to the engineering and down to the last piece of software that somebody had to slave over and write so he could write his derp.
Correct.
How many IC chips are in a fucking car these days?
Strangely enough, probably fewer than in the olden days because there's so much integration, but it's just because of the fact that everything's integrated now into a single chip.
All right, how many electronic functions have been taken over?
Yeah, if you just sum up the number of transistors in there, definitely a whole hell of a lot more than like 10 years ago.
Yeah, before you used to have a spark module. Now you had the whole throttle body module. Now you got the oxygen sensors, and now you got 18 other sensors going for your fuel air mixture based on altitude and air density and humidities.
Throttles, car throttles are no longer mechanical. They haven't been for 10, 20 years now. All of them are electronic. They just go to a computer, and then it's up to the computer to decide what to do about the throttle and our fuel mixture and all that stuff.
I remember I was having trouble. They said, "Oh, it's your TPS." And I go, "What's that?" He goes, "Your throttle position switch." In other words, how far have you pushed down on the accelerator pedal, which did mechanically open up the throttle body, but then the sensor reads, "What did he just do?"
Yep. Well, I mean,
now cars are essentially turning FADEC.
Yep. I mean, with a cruise control, you are going to have a throttle position sensor, and that's going to go into probably a little servo. Well, it's going to go to the engine control unit, and from there, it's going to be probably a little servo motor, because the ECU itself needs to be able to add or possibly subtract throttle.
And now you have adaptive cruise control and automatic braking, and it's a nightmare.
I mean, back in 2004, I had a car that had a speed limiter on it, so I could literally just push my foot down all the way to the floor and just rest it there, and the car would accelerate up to the speed limit, and there just stay there. So obviously, the ECU had the ability to back off on the throttle as well as add in. So there was definitely no mechanical link from my pedal to the throttle body.
It's like fly-by-wire in planes.
Yep. Well, just like Shubil here said, a FADEC, which is the aviation equivalent of the full authority digital engine control.
Yeah, fly-by-wire is FADEC. Yes.
Fly-by-wire is actually, there's cars that have steer-by-wire now. That's sort of more analogous to fly-by-wire.
Hmm.
In fact, isn't
it?
You
have different levels. You have lane assist. You have autonomous driving, to where, like in Tesla, it executes a passing or lane shifts. But then in some other cars, you have just lane assist.
I mean, the Cybertruck is fully steer-by-wire. There's no mechanical link anymore.
Regardless, it just goes to he's surrounded by mathematically designed technology nonstop. As you pointed out, he's on a fucking computer. Only nerds make computers, but then idiots, are allowed to run them.
Do you think we should change that? Should there be a driver's license for a computer, or at least for the internet?
Don't give the sovereign citizens anything else to bitch about.
Yeah. They already freaked out by the fact we're hiding the true shape of the Earth from them. So.
Oh yeah, they want to deny gravity. Yeah, tell that to Otis Elevator that made the braking system on the elevator that they trust.
It's relative density.
Relative elevatority.
Yes.
Yeah.
The elevator goes up because of relative density. Right.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever try to explain actual gravity using the term relative density?
No, I haven't.
I think that's your specialty, Peter.
Yes, I did that. Guess with whom? With Gregory, way back then. Right. And I would just tell him that, yeah, relatively speaking, there's a lot of density below us, right? Because they always go like relative density, this and that. And I would say, yeah, but we cannot forget about the Earth. The Earth is very dense. And they were like, well, yeah. I'm like, okay, so that relative density down there must be affecting us in some way. And they kind of buy it. Like they buy it almost all the way to the end.
Clapping like seals, eh?
Yeah, so you just don't say mass of the Earth. You just say the relative density below us is very dense down there. So
that definitely is.
Because they don't have any description of relative density, so they cannot.
The only thing is then that leaves them with density as a natural force.
Yeah, that's one step forward. Sure, but it's like, a bit stretching it, but it's density of mass, right? They always forget that it's density of something. So when I say relative density, I kind of mean mass in my head. So it's a bit of a stretch.
That's funny.
And
Yeah.
then did you hear? And of course there was that going around where horizontal lines are straight and have slope, which is true. But then they laugh at that. So I bothered to figure it out, right? So a horizontal line in my 27.7 mile observation, that last mile of horizontal has a slope of 0.7%.
Yeah.
I especially enjoyed, somebody was talking about in chat today that not all, he was using an AI to agree with him that not all lines in a horizontal plane are, or what did he say? He said that all lines within a horizontal plane didn't cross each other or were parallel or something stupid like that. Really stupid.
When you're talking about a horizontal of a few hundred feet, I would not ascribe that to a slope, but it is calculable and it's not zero, but it is functionally zero. And so in the case point that I brought forward in field measurement, the last mile of the horizontal from the observer has a slope of 0.7%. I did the math. Oh, math, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was one of the Bevy boys on here, and he said that. And what did he post to the AI?
Must be Jerry.
No, it was linear, linear, whatever that guy. Linear bastard. It was his name. What his name in here is.
And at 8 inches miles squared, yeah, you take your horizontal line out a mile, then drop down 8 inches. Now you're at the same elevation as the instrument. They say, no, that's a change of elevation. No, that's coming back. That's eliminating that change in elevation at the end of the horizontal back to the same elevation of instrument. And they don't like that.
All right, he said the suggestion that two intersecting lines within the same plane could both be horizontal contradicts the core definition and misinterprets the principle of geometry and logic. And I was thinking, if he's looking at it from the Bev point of view of all horizontals being parallel, then you can easily embed two lines that are intersecting within the same horizontal plane, and both be horizontal, I guess, horizontal lines. But I don't know. I didn't want to get into it. It was just too stupid.